What's up, guys? We are back with another podcast episode, and I'm really excited about this one. So a while ago, we did an episode that was, I think, what do we call it? Like the current state of pickleball paddles, something like that.
Yes.
We are essentially doing that again, but I wanted to do a really big recap. We're only talking about paddles. There's been a lot of stuff in the industry, a lot of topics people have been talking about, things people have been wondering, and we want to kind of cover that. So I think I'm kind of feeling like maybe we do this every 3 months or so, kind of cover what's trending, so that way we don't have to do YouTube videos and we can kind of brain dump all the stuff. So
Totally agree. The industry is changing so quickly. I like just from this year alone, like from the beginning of the year until now, I think there's been so many new paddles, and then there's been some change ups within the space and some interesting things that are happening within the space. So I felt like it was worthy to talk about and share it with you guys here on the pod.
Yeah, it's going to be good. But all right, the first thing I want to talk about, because I have gotten a lot more comments than usual online about in the last few weeks, maybe month or so, about like, Chris must be biased about certain companies. Like he never says anything bad about them. And so I just want to kind of talk about this a little bit because there's a lot of you who obviously don't know who I am. So I kind of wanted to explain. So first of all, no companies pay me for reviews. At the moment, no one gives me money and says, review this paddle and say good things. Like everything when I review a paddle is purely my own opinion. I hardly even talk to most of the companies about the paddle beforehand. And also, even just sponsorship wise, I have actually never accepted any sponsorship. And I've probably had like 20 or 30 different sponsor offers. Like, hey, promote this thing and we'll pay you some money, do it on Instagram, YouTube, whatever, or talk about it. And I turned pretty much all of them down because...
What? You did? You had opportunity to pay me and feed me, and you decided to say no?
Well,
goes to show
we have only had one offer for the podcast. Okay, all the other ones were for the Pickleball studio. I'm trying to keep you fed, Will. I'm trying. The podcast, I might be a little more loose just so we can put some food on your plate.
Oh, okay. Sweet. Thanks.
Yes. But no, yeah, I've had a lot of different offers, and I've turned down literally all of them because if I don't fully believe in the product or thing that the company is, like I'm not going to accept money for it. Like I've probably left a lot of money on the table because of that. So I just kind of want people to be aware that like when I do a review, it's all my own thoughts. I spend 1 to 2 weeks or more with each paddle so that I can give you guys the best judgment of it. Sometimes it lines up with what other people think. Sometimes it doesn't, but I try my best. And then I like to reward companies that are doing good things. Like this year, people are always like, dude, you don't really say anything bad about Selkirk paddles. And that's because this year, Selkirk just got really good. Like if you go back to my channel at the beginning of the year, when I did my Vanguard 2.0 review and my 001 review, did not like those. Bad. I thought that the Vanguard 2.0 claims were really bad. The spin barely improved. And even when they were kind of reaching out to me to work in different capacities, some of the, I guess, offers I was receiving were almost just, I felt like a little insulting. So it's like, I really didn't like Selkirk at the beginning of the year. So I guess people who knew me at the beginning of the year, you would know that. If you're around recently, you wouldn't know that. But yeah, like they've just done a really good job getting better this year. And I think, that deserves rewarding when people make good things. But not everything they make is good. 001, total flop. I did not care for that paddle whatsoever. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to let you guys know. I mean, people can call me biased if they want, I guess. But if you're going to call me biased, at least let me make some money from it. Because at the moment, I'm not making any money for saying nice things about paddles. I
feel like you do your best job to try and, I guess, provide some facts and some things that are more quantitative, I suppose you could say, just because it's hard to really just review and give your thoughts on a paddle. At least that speaks to a lot of the audience out there, at least to explain a paddle for something that we're doing, like hitting this ball, like dinking this ball over net to try to differentiate what it feels like and how it performs. I think it's pretty
oftentimes tough. It is tough, and I think there's so many subtle nuances between a lot of the paddles. Like some of them are really large, right? Like a Power Air and like a Gearbox, like CX14, or, just some thick paddle, like let's say the Diadem Warrior. Super, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to explain those differences. But some paddles, it's so small and everyone wants it compared to the paddle that they use. Like it's just not possible to compare it to everything. So it's,
or at least
it's not easy.
Compare it to at least in a meaningful way so that you can, I guess put into words the differences, which is why I've been enjoying your channel. And also, I guess, John Koo, like you guys are just, putting stuff under the microscope and then doing the RPM test. I think those are just easy ways to try and make comparisons between paddles because, at the end of the day, a lot of that stuff is essentially subjective of how something feels and if you like it a certain way, especially if you have a certain style or a certain type of paddle that you like to, to play with,
Well, and especially, different people have different preferences, right? Someone might want something really headlight, and maybe I like something that's a little more balanced towards the head. Then when I review a headlight paddle poorly or something, and then they're upset, like you really can't make everyone happy, but everyone does have their own opinions. But my goal is always, actually, if people haven't realized this yet, generally the format of my reviews, the first literally whole portion of the video is generally factual, and then a little bit of like, here's how I thought it played. And then the ending, my closing thoughts, is always where I pretty much go straight into my opinion of what I think. So taking into account the facts, but also just kind of what I like in paddles. So I don't know. I try and make it objective as possible and not just my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think the other important thing for, I guess, the people who are watching your videos and just reviews on paddles in general is that, I appreciate you that, you try to be as unbiased as possible. Of course, it's really impossible. I think we all know, you definitely know, and I know that it really is impossible to be completely unbiased towards something because you're going to have biases that come or stem from somewhere. Obviously, if you have good working relationships with, Selkirk or Gearbox or whichever paddle company out there, some of that bias, sneaks in there, but you try your best to be as unbiased as possible. But also, at the end of the day, some of these paddles just are very similar, and you have to pick and choose on which you kind of review. And to some extent, we don't look at paddles unless we feel that the community at large is asking for a certain review or there's certain hype amongst, a certain brand of paddle. Because, there's a million raw carbon fiber, woven paddles
so many
out there, right? Made of the T700 carbon fiber. And you kind of have to pick and choose. And if they're all the same, it's like, okay, is it even worth reviewing? And because we are making videos on YouTube, or wherever else, and we essentially get paid by how many eyeballs look at these videos, we decide and pick and choose which videos we think may or may not perform well, unless we really just like the product personally, or the product has some sort of meaning to us personally. Like that's how we kind of choose and decide which paddles to make. So, there's some built-in bias right there, but I think, you amongst others and probably myself have to work within the lines of that biasy, because we are beholden essentially to the algorithm as well. So I just wanted to say that out there, that as strongly as we try to be unbiased in some of these reviews, there is some bias in there, but I think you do a good job of, trying to be as unbiased as possible.
Well, and I think that's also too where certain things come in, where if there's a certain style of paddle, I'm just going to say headlight and head heavy, or maybe even handle shape. Like, let's say I really like a long handle head heavy, and there's one company that just keeps putting out like that style of paddle in, different variants, like fiberglass, carbon fiber, edgeless, whatever. It's not even like a conscious bias. It's just, this is what I like in a paddle. Like, not bias in a bad way, but this is just kind of what my body likes. So, of course, a lot of those reviews end up being kind of favorable because that's just the style of paddle I like. And also, I think it's really good that you mentioned that, because that is how I basically judge my reviews at this point, is what is the community talking about a lot?
Yep.
What am I really enjoying? If there's something I love, I'm going to talk about it because I want people to know. What do I also think will get good views? because if I'm going to spend 1 to 2 weeks with a paddle just playing with it, and then all the time scripting the video, editing, and all of that, like I want it to pay off. I don't want to make a video that gets 500 views, right? Like I know there are some paddles out there. No one's really going to care if I review it. I don't only care about views, right? But that is an important thing because at the moment, that's part of how I make any money since companies don't pay me.
Exactly.
So that definitely gets factored in. And people always say like, oh, well, actually I had one guy on Reddit that was basically like, he doesn't really say anything bad about paddles. It's like, dude, I actually have a long list of paddles that I really don't like. But since I don't think people will care about them, it doesn't feel worth it to make a video. But I'm realizing, you know, maybe I should review some of these. One, so people are aware. And two, people also just see like, oh, okay, this guy doesn't like that. When I made the Swift review this week,
people were like,
it's funny. I didn't even think I was that harsh, but a lot of people messaged me were like, whoo. One guy was like, YOLO's never going to work with you again. And I was like, okay, I didn't think I was that mean. Come on. Like, but I got messages saying, wow, you really, like when something isn't good, even if it's a big company, you tell us. And I kind of just thought, yes, that's how it's always been.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, how many reviewers out there actually say poor things about a paddle? I feel like very few or very little.
Yeah, very few. I honestly think, this is me thinking just in the moment, and I'm probably missing maybe 1 or 2 people, but in my opinion, the least biased reviews I have seen so far are me, you, Pickleball Effect, and John Koo. John Koo is new. He doesn't have a lot, but I can already tell he thinks similar to me where he wants more objective data. He just kind of tells it how it is.
Yeah.
After that, I see a lot of reviews, Facebook, YouTube videos, wherever, where you just go, man, okay, they said nice things because this paddle was sent to them, purely, right? And I'm so over that. For a while, people thought, oh, he says nice things because companies sent it to him. I have to tell companies I don't want their paddle now because there's
have you seen this guy's room, his studio? Oh my gosh.
I own over 100 paddles now, and I could probably have closer to 150 or more if I let every company send me a paddle. It's just, there's too many.
Yeah.
And my apartment cannot contain all the paddles. You've seen it.
I know I've seen it. Yeah, I told you. And it's still, you still need a package a few of them that you're never going to touch again and just put them in a box and send them my way so I have stuff that I can look at.
But then you're going to have the same overwhelmed problem that I have there's just so many.
Well, right now I have more space in my house than you do. So
that's fair. That's fair. You can be my storage unit.
Yeah, okay. I'll send you an invoice every month. Yeah.
No. You can bill me for the shipping fees.
Okay.
Actually, if I sent you like 50 paddles, that probably would be a hefty shipping fee.
That probably would. Oh.
Okay, guys. So real quick, we are only recording audio right now because a new announcement came out from Diadem, and I'm getting ready to go to nationals shortly. But we really wanted to get this on this podcast episode. By the time you guys hear this episode, there's probably been quite a bit of chatter about this, but we wanted to give you guys our thoughts on the recently announced Diadem Vice paddle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Will, so first of all, let's just talk about this Diacon concept. So for those of you who didn't follow, because I actually don't think that many people watched the live stream event. I think someone in the chat said it was like 150 people. So I think the online presence was not necessarily large. Basically, Diacon was this event that Diadem kept hyping up. It was an in-person event, looked very formal. People were in suits. There was about 400 to 450 people there. They were announcing a new concept paddle, and essentially they kind of treated it similar to an Apple keynote. If you've ever watched that, where they make a big deal about this announcement, kind of hype it up, and then they reveal a paddle on stage, or reveal a device on stage. That's what Diadem did with
was it in
Diacon.
Florida?
So it
was in Florida, right?
I believe it was in Florida, yes.
Okay.
So it was a very interesting concept. I guess we'll talk about that before we get into the paddle. What do you think about events like that for paddles?
I don't know if I'm a huge fan of it. I think it's kind of cool. Maybe this is like a beta test for them, right? They're going to do something like this more in the future. They're trying to build a following. So from a marketing perspective, yes, I couldn't imagine it was cheap to do, but also I think it was a little unnecessary, especially if you're only going to reveal one thing, one product, right? You know, in the tech world, right? Apple Keynote, Google I/O, et cetera, they usually reveal a couple different products or services.
Right.
Now, I mean, I don't know if it's fair to compare a Diadem, like a paddle company, to, I guess, you know, a huge tech company. But I thought the concept was interesting. And if you invite a bunch of people and they get to play with your paddles or whatnot, I think it's a great way to essentially market your products if it is large enough and you get people in the industry to go. I'm surprised you didn't get invited because, you know, you're the quote unquote
I'm not surprised
de facto
in the
paddle
slightest.
guru. Wait, what do you mean?
Diadem hates me.
Why do they hate you? I don't understand.
I think my initial Warrior review really upset them because I heavily talked about how much it broke. And at the time, that was totally true. And they kept telling me, we fixed it. But all I kept seeing was Warriors around me that kept breaking. I even had someone recently that told me their teal Warrior, they broke 2 of them in 2 months. So I can't. Here's the thing. People go through paddles at different rates.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just how the person plays. Sometimes how they treat them. The initial Warrior definitely had issues. The current one, I have no idea. I haven't played with it. But I like what Diadem does. So I think it's funny. I don't know if they think I hate them. I'm sure because of my Warrior review and then because of my Warrior Edge review, they probably think, oh, this guy just really hates us or whatever. But I think Diadem does some of the best colorways in the game, if not the best colorways in the game.
I think they do have the best design. The new Vice paddle looks pretty sweet in my opinion. At least the color and the design in my opinion.
Man, I don't know. I was gonna get into that. I was gonna say this one. I don't know what they were thinking. I think it's ugly.
Oh,
I think it's so ugly.
Okay, we'll go more to that in a second, I suppose. But yeah, continue with your thoughts on the event in general.
Yeah. So anyways, Diadem doesn't really like me. I think I had some people that tried to get me invited, and I'm pretty sure it was a instant no. So I don't know. I think it's funny that they think I don't like them. I think they're pretty cool guys. But anyways, the concept I think is really good. I'm actually really intrigued by potentially seeing more of those in the future. But pickleball is also, I think if you do it, maybe it's best to do it at a large tournament where you have a large audience and you can kind of steal that audience. So instead of people going specifically for your event, they're there for the tournament, but now you make a big deal out of, hey, I'll come and check out this new paddle announcement because now they've got courts to go check it out. You could have reps that can assist people, and now people can kind of mess with it. But unlike tech, where you can either show measurable claims of how much faster things are or how much better, or a feature is clearly understood by everyone that it's amazing.
Yeah.
The big thing that Diacon lacked was really any information about this paddle. And even the claims they did make, you can't prove them on stage. Like, you have to go and hit the paddle. And, you know, to some extent, it's a little bit same with the phones, but when you can kind of demo how good a camera is. You can kind of show like, oh, it's this much faster. The paddle, when you say, oh, it's the best spinning thing ever, well, every company makes that claim, right? So it doesn't really tell you anything when one does that.
All right, well, before we get more into it, let's just explain to the audience like what it kind of is right now, right? So it's a paddle. It looks like it's edgeless without an edge guard. The weight, according to their site, it comes in at 8 ounces. It's a elongated paddle, 16.4 inches. It looks like the shape of the regular Warrior to me.
Same.
The width is 7.4 inches. It has a thickness of 16 millimeter, a balance of 235 millimeters, which I don't know if you want to go into that.
I think that's the same as pretty much all the other paddles, or it's very, very close.
Very close. Okay. And the core, I think the interesting thing is that it's made out of EVA foam instead of honeycomb.
This is really interesting. Yes, we're all used to that. And there have been paddles in the past that have combined polymer and EVA foam. But if you look at this paddle, so it has 26 small holes in the face. It kind of looks like someone just took a drill and drilled 26 small holes through various spots on the face.
It's very reminiscent of like a paddle that you find in the sport of padel, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say is it does look a little bit similar to that. The shape's obviously a little bit different, but the holes remind you of that. And then if you look up what are padel cores made out of, EVA foam, baby.
Really?
So I think pretty much the whole inspiration for this paddle was taken from Padel's playbook, which is fine. But I think the thing we really got to talk about now is it's never going to be legal, ever.
Wait,
okay.
Why not?
Let me rephrase that. It will not be legal anytime soon, I don't believe. Because everyone who I've asked about this paddle, either people at the event or people who got to hit it well before the event, they have all said this would absolutely break the game.
And they said that? No way.
They literally said it would ruin the sport.
It's why though? Is it really that good?
My assumption is the spin is probably ridiculous. The deflection of the paddle is probably much higher than what is allowed at the moment. And this is all without me having hit it. But spin is the big thing I keep hearing about. And interestingly enough, during the live stream, they said, we're using grip paint and then a coating to protect it. And I don't know if companies just haven't learned yet, but grip paint is a borderline triggering word in pickleball, right? No one wants to hear the word grip paint because only negative things are associated with it. So who knows? Maybe
they found something that works. So my next question is, all right, so in the padel world, I've seen some of the shots they hit in padel, and I feel like it looks like they have ridiculous amounts of spin. I don't know what type of ball they use, but I'm curious as to what the surface of padel paddles are. Maybe it's a combination of the ball that they use that they can generate, some crazy amounts of spins. Because I've seen some crazy drop shots in padel.
It's disgusting in padel.
I'm curious as to how maybe they took inspiration from that as well.
And if they did, then I've heard padel paddles, just people who have touched them, played with them, whatever, that they are absurdly gritty. So if they did essentially just take a thing out of Padel's playbook, then of course I'm sure these are busted in pickleball because they're supposedly very gritty for Padel as it is. And another thing they were claiming during the event is that this is the most arm-friendly paddle on the planet right now, which they made a lot of really bold claims. So one of the big bold claims they made was we're 5 years ahead of every other competitor. And they kept saying stuff. They were comparing it to iPhones when they launched and how revolutionary that was. And we're going to change the game and no one, people are going to look back and go, this was when pickleball changed. But, okay, and here's the reason I say a couple things about the USAP approval. I guess I should dive into that so people understand.
Yeah.
First of all, on the paddle on the website, there is no stamp that says USAP approved.
Okay.
All the ones that people got at the event, because everyone who went to the event got one, no stamp that says USAP approval. During the event, they kept saying the word concept paddle. They never hinted at there being approval for this paddle, and I was talking to someone last night. They said they got a hold of a Diadem rep, and they said it will not be an approved paddle. It will be a rec play paddle only. This paddle is $225.
Okay.
Who's going to pay $225 for a rec paddle, Will?
I don't know, you.
No.
Just kidding.
But because think about it this way. Remember when carbon got banned? I don't know if you saw this, but in my area, if people were still playing, because this was before the new ones came out.
Yeah.
If you were still playing with a carbon, people actually made fun of you. Like, you got ridiculed for using a cheater paddle. So if this paddle's as broken as I'm hearing, you're going to get mocked at the court. No one's going to want you to play with it.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I just don't, I can't imagine. I don't know. I just feel like it's not that big a deal. Like, if you play with it, I mean, technically, are some wooden paddles like technically not USAP approved? Like,
Right, but there's not a perceived benefit of playing with the wood paddle, or that it benefits your game, right?
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
I think it would only come when you can feel a measurable difference in someone's game because of the thing. So imagine I just went and made an oversized ping pong paddle and just stuck rubber on it. Now I have ridiculous amounts of spin. Okay, if someone showed up with that?
Yeah.
Maybe your answer is going to be no. But would you really not mind if someone wanted to play fairly competitive games with you and they were using a paddle that had significant advantages over you?
Honestly, no. I honestly wouldn't care.
Okay.
Like it would just be fun. I would just make like an asterisk every single match. Like I would only care if this person was bloating and gloating that they beat me or whatever. Sure. Maybe that would irk me a bit. But other than that, if they crush you with it, I was like, all right, let me play with it next. That's what I would say. Sure. But I don't think it would bother me all that much. But I can see that really upsetting some other people for sure. Now that you say that, I could see that very upsetting for sure.
I'm just imagining if I showed up in my local court, people would lose their mind over using it. If it's really as broken as people say, because I don't know.
Do you think it's as broken as the claims make it out to be? So I it's funny.
I believe it.
You think so? Wait. All right.
I mean, you and I have some pretty reliable inside sources, and I think if they're saying it's broken, I believe them.
I mean, like I asked Christian, our buddy Christian Alshin, up and coming. Yeah. Hot shot pickleball player, and because I saw him in the video that they showed, he was hitting it, and I think he plays with the Warrior Edge right now, and I think he's friends with the Diadem folks, and I think he just said he told me that it was illegal, so it wasn't legal, confirmed by him, and then he says it's not good for utility is what he said to me. Did
we ever confirm what that means? Did he typo?
I think what he meant to say by that, I mean, I didn't ask him. It was kind of late or whatever, and I was busy doing other things. But he says it's not good for utility, and the ball just really flies. So to me, it just sounds like it's a crazy potential like power paddle that's like just maybe really fast, like in the hands. I don't know. Maybe he says it's not good for touch or something like that. Maybe according to his play style, but that's what he said to me. We'll have to see. Like, obviously Christian is a up and coming top level player. We don't have the skills that Christian has. So what he says is good for utility could mean something completely different for what we think of as good for utility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Well, I will get to hit it later today. I have a buddy who's going to have one. By the time people hear this, I'll probably have a video up. My goal is today's going to be such a hectic day, dude. I have all this packing to do, stuff I got to get done, some editing, and then I'm going to go run, either take this paddle with me or go to a court immediately, hit it, record a video, and then try and edit it on the plane and get it out for everyone. So we'll find out real quick how broken this paddle is. But I guess, what do you think? So they made this whole event. They probably spent a lot of money. They hyped it up for quite a while. And they essentially just announce a concept paddle.
Yeah.
To me, that's not very exciting. I mean, I don't get it. Why hype that up?
So just to have more people talk about it, I suppose. And I mean, it's kind of working. We're talking about it right now.
I mean, maybe it's the whole any press is good press type of deal, but
yeah.
I even saw a thread on Facebook.
Yeah.
Someone said they're a dealer and said, I'm thinking about buying this paddle and carrying it. What is the general consensus about this paddle? And everyone in that thread, literally not a single one had a differing opinion, said, why would I spend $225 for a thing I can't use in tournaments?
It's just kind of insane to me. Well, I don't know. That could be a just very small subset of people, especially, on Facebook. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that just enjoy rec play who don't really care about tournaments. So, I mean, I don't know.
I agree. I think that's probably the majority of players, actually. I just think even if you're only a rec player. First, if you're only a rec player, how, I guess, serious do you take the game? Do you want to spend $225, or are you just going to buy a $100 to $150 paddle? And then, even if you're a rec player, enough word is going to get out about this thing that I think if you show up at the court, people are going to go, oh, no. I don't want to play you with that thing. Because rec players take the game pretty serious, man.
This is kind of
They're
true.
pretty cutthroat sometimes.
Yeah.
You show up, do a drop serve wrong, and they're like ready to cut your arm off.
Man, I don't know. That must just be the rec players in your area. The rec players in my area probably couldn't tell you the difference between, a ping pong paddle and a regular paddle. So I don't know.
Minnesota players must just be built different, dude. I'm telling you, I hear debates all the time. There was a kid who, these kids were 3-0s at best, probably, at my local courts. Kid taped sandpaper to his paddle, and his friend was making fun of him. He's like, dude, there's no way that's legal. Like, take that off. I'm not playing you with it.
Oh, really?
And he's like, dude, it doesn't even help performance. There's no way it does anything. So they came and asked me and my brother and said, is this legal? Because he's like, it has to be legal. And I just laughed. I was like, dude, that's definitely not legal.
Oh, well, props to this kid for, trying to engineer something different or new.
He's innovating the game.
He's innovating the game. So, I'm a fan.
and this is just 3-0s we're talking about, being sensitive about the rules. I'm
okay.
Like, man, you get to the 3-5, 4-0 rec player, and you are in for a treat.
Well, aside from the event right now, I mean, I still think the event was, in my opinion, unnecessary. I mean, I wish they would have announced some other news, like I mean, they did announce.
They kind of did.
That some of these features will be going into the Warrior version 2 and then the next Icon version 2, but we didn't see any photos or really concepts or other than the announcement for that. There was nothing really else that was notable. And I don't know. I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is something that they will potentially do more again in the future. And this was kind of like a beta test round for an in-person event. I can see what you're saying, though, that it might be unnecessary and that they should probably do it at a tournament, kind of like Gamma does it. Gamma does it at the Gamma Pickleball Classic, which is a tournament that they host in Pennsylvania. And I know I got some buddies that go to that every single year, like my buddy Alex Trong. I think Kyle Yates goes to that, of course, or whatnot. So they host an event, and of course, they're showcasing their products. So maybe in the future, Diacon,
I could see that.
We'll do something similar, and this is just a test run, just to see how it goes, to make sure that they can create a good event, etc. So like I said, we'll have to wait and see. I think at the way that it was right now, I felt like it was a little bit unnecessary. I feel there's something else that should have been tied to it, like aside, maybe more news, maybe some sort of exhibition matches, charity event, to make it more of an event. Yeah.
Right. No, I completely agree. I think in concept, very good. I mean, as we were watching it, all I could think the whole time was, wait, are you going to give us more information? Because we still don't know what the surface material is. In my opinion, they just came on stage, made a bunch of really bold claims about how we're 5 years ahead of everyone in the industry. And the joke I kept making was, yeah, maybe you're 5 years ahead of USAP approval. But here's the thing, okay? Like, they probably have way more inside info than me. So maybe they've talked to USAP. Maybe they know that USAP is going to loosen the restrictions next year. Because you and I both know that there's a lot of crazy things going on in pickleball right now. So maybe things are about to change. I don't know. I will admit that there are probably things they know more about than I do with the industry. So I don't know. But what do you think they're going to take and put in the V2 of the Warrior? So just for everyone's reference, they announced the V2 Icon, V2 Warrior, and V2 Warrior Edge for next year. It's like February, and I don't remember what the other dates were. But what do you think it's going to be? Or what could they take that's legal?
The edgeless design. That's number one.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
But that's not really innovative at this point.
I guess that's true.
I think people should do it. It's just not. I wouldn't hype it up.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd hype it up. Well, that's the thing. We don't know enough about this paddle. All that I see that's truly innovative is and that's even stretching it, the EVA foam core, right? But we know other paddles to do. I want to say it was the Babolat paddles. That uses EVA foam. Do they use only EVA or do you use a combination?
No, it's polymer plus EVA.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how they use the foam.
I talked to some people and they said EVA foam would be completely illegal if that's the only core you used.
Really?
Some engineers that I talked to.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So I can only imagine some of the EVA foam core, edgeless, and all right, well, I know they said grit paint, but we don't know what type of grit paint or if they found a new process, that makes it better. I mean, look at Selkirk, with their 002 and Power Air. I mean, I know they don't call it grit paint, but it's some sort of coating, I feel like, and theirs lasts a while. And if Diadem figured out something similar to that, like that would actually, I think, be amazing. Like if they figured that out on the regular Warrior, that actually, like, I'd be very curious to try that. And I would even possibly consider, switching back to the Warrior if they figured out some way to, make that grit last as long as, say, a 002 or a Power Air.
Dude, off topic really quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look this up later. I should have done this before the episode. That's a bummer. But I'm totally going to do this later. I'm going to look up the durability of Padel paddles and how long grit lasts and what people's expectations are, because Padel paddles are really expensive. So I want to see if they're that much more durable than pickleball paddles. Since that kind of ties into things we talk about later in this episode.
No, that would be interesting to see. I think they're made of other materials. I feel like at least the structure of those paddles are pretty durable.
Yeah, they're pretty legit.
Yeah, they're pretty legit, and they're pretty thick. I know they use multiple layers of EVA foam. That's about the extent that I know about Padel paddles. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see and to compare and contrast.
Real quick, because I don't want this portion to go too long, because we already know this episode's over 2 hours long.
Yeah.
We're going to be almost a 2.5 hour episode. It'll be a miracle if people make it through this thing. But I just want to talk about that design because we talked a little bit about it at the beginning.
Apparently you don't like it.
Yes, I think, like I said, Diadem, I think, has some of the best colorways and designs in the game, period. But this Vice is so ugly. But you like it?
I like it. I think it's cool.
Really? Man, I just think it's so busy. There's so many shapes on it. The text feels like it gets cluttered. If you look at the one side of it, it has all the specs on it, which is something they've done before, but the way they laid it out on this one, it's a little more in your face where the text is and whatnot. I don't know. I'm just looking at it right now, and it's very busy. And then the side that has Vice all over it. Some of us were talking in another area, and the big text looks like it says Vile instead of Vice.
I can say that.
Glance at it really quick. Once you look at it closer, you can see. But
yeah,
I don't know. It just doesn't look good to me. But I guess you like it.
I like it. Okay, so I will say that the side where the Vice is really huge, I like that side least. Right.
Okay.
I like that side less. I think they can work on the design on that side a little bit, but I think the colorway is good. Like the yellow and the blue work really nice. And the other side where the Vice is much smaller, it's in between the center with the holes and stuff. Yeah, no, I think I mean I don't find that much different from a lot of other paddles that just have the name of the paddle or the company just straight down the middle, and then the stuff. I mean. Gearbox kind of essentially does that, right? And
I don't think it's necessarily the text. It's not the text that bothers me, I don't think, except for the side that's really big.
Do you think it's like that's the background weird. Shapes of the blue that they have like these?
It's just really cluttered. I feel they just took a bunch of stuff and slapped it all in there. If you simplified the background more, maybe you made it kind of a gradient face and not all these geometric shapes, I think that might look cleaner. And if you cleaned up that text, made it much smaller, put it along the edge of the face or something. Okay. Here's the thing. The design really doesn't matter. No one really cares that much. But if I'm just talking about the paddle, I would not. I think it's Diadem's worst looking paddle.
Okay. I think
I don't know what I'd say their best looking one is, but their black and white icon is sick. That is a really good looking paddle.
I can see that. It's I mean, I like it. It's probably not my favorite of their line, but I think it's perfectly fine.
Where would you rank it?
Ooh, I'd probably rank it
in Diadem's line.
In Diadem's line, I'd probably rank it maybe third. I think
third. Okay.
Yeah, third. I think.
So what's the order?
The regular warrior, I think, is on top, and then I think the icon is definitely, and then I think it's this, and then the edge is like last.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting. Well, I guess before we let everyone go on to the next topic, do you have any other closing thoughts on this?
Yes, I just want to know your thoughts on if these holes really will make that much of a difference in the purpose. I mean, I'm assuming because it's supposed to help with the aerodynamics of the paddle. And I think holes here along the whole entire face probably helps more than, let's say, the hole that Selkirk uses near the bottom, and then, I mean, like one shot uses some of the holes on the side. But I just want to know your thoughts on how effective this will be. Obviously, in Padel paddles, the holes are much larger, and the paddles in Padel are much heavier.
That's what I was gonna say. I just looked up a picture of a Padel paddle, and the holes cover much more area of the face, and they're much larger. So I feel that this is not enough to make a noticeable difference. I feel like if you were gonna do it, just go all the way and do it kind of like Padel, maybe. But who knows? Maybe there's reasons in pickleball that. Aside from legality that you can't do that. Maybe it doesn't grab the ball as well if you do holes that big. But I'd be skeptical that holes that small would really make that big of a difference. Just
Same.
like with the 003 and whatever, I'm skeptical that it really helps with wind resistance. Maybe you can make the argument for the flexing at the throat and whatnot, but in terms of aerodynamics, I'm skeptical.
Yeah, same here. But those are my thoughts on it. I mean, I'd be very curious to try it, but I'm also, I got to give props to Diadem for, trying something new, I guess, in the pickleball space, and also trying something new in terms of their marketing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it is good to try new things. Again, we do complain a lot about how everyone is doing the same things in pickleball, so it is good that they're trying something new. Hopefully, feedback will get taken, and for future stuff, they'll kind of figure that out a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, fun to see them doing something new. Think some things could have been executed better. Things could have been a little clearer, but I don't know. They'll probably get it better for round 2, hopefully.
Yeah. All right.
So on all this note, the first thing I guess I want to talk about a little bit is our least favorite paddles. Since
gosh,
I haven't reviewed all of them, I think this would be kind of fun to talk about. So I will rifle off some of the ones that I thought of earlier today.
Okay.
These are paddles that I have very strong dislike for.
Okay. Hit me with them.
First of all, Adidas paddles, every single one of them. This goes all the way back to my very first video on YouTube. You can still go watch it. In the first minute and a half, I toasted them. I said, I think my exact words were, I think these things play like pieces of garbage. And I got an earful for that one. Adidas was not happy with me saying that. That was actually the very first time a company got angry at me for saying not nice things about the paddle. But seriously,
I heard they're not good. There's a rumor. There was a rumor that I heard that they actually approached Julian Arnold and they paid him. They were like, "Oh, we'll pay you like, I don't know, 50 to like 80K if you use our paddles or whatever." And he turned them down because they're trash.
Dude, if that's true,
can neither confirm nor deny.
If that's true, then that just goes to show you how not good it is. That's a lot of money to use a paddle. I seriously think at 180 to 190, whatever the price is for their top tier ones, you couldn't find a worse value in pickleball, I think.
Dang,
I don't know.
It's that bad?
There might be something else. There might. But I think that paddle could be $70 to $100, and that's about where it belongs. So 190 is a lot of money for it. So that's
I should have played
number
with
one
it
for me
when I was with you.
I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
Because I borrowed it from a shop when I did that video.
Oh,
And here's
okay.
the thing. Consistently, people who have played with them, they tell me the same thing. I had a guy in Georgia come up to me. He's like, yeah, I played with these. Hate them. It's like, yeah, see, they're not good.
Okay.
So what's your first pick?
Oh, man. Well, I haven't played with the Adidas one, but first that comes to mind, 001.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was going to be my next one.
was your
So
next
I
one?
guess we can both talk about that.
Okay, go ahead. I mean, let's say I remember when I first came up to see when we first met, and we just brought like a backpack full of paddles when I was up in Minneapolis with you, and I just wanted to try all these paddles. It was like kid in the candy shop. It's like, oh my gosh, I get to try all these freaking paddles, and I was excited for 001 and 002, and those two were the most distinctive, most different feeling paddles I've ever had to play with. Like, just the 002 was just jarring to me, you know, obviously a good paddle. And then I was like, okay, I wonder what the 001's like. And you and your brothers were like, don't do it, Will. It is absolute, like, atrocious how bad this thing is. And I was like, it can't be that bad. And I hit with it, and I did like commit to playing a game with it against you and your brother, and I didn't do that bad. I actually think I won, but I was like, yeah, dude, this is bad. It just felt like a dead board. Like, I think I would have much rather played with a wooden paddle than the 001. It was just nothing.
Yeah, it for 300. The biggest problem was $333. Huge problem. I think if that paddle was 100 to 150, wouldn't have been maybe terrible. But I think what made it feel so jarring was that you knew you were paying $333 for it, and the 002 was so good. It had flaws. The sweet spot was pretty terrible. Everyone pretty universally agreed with that. But you could tell that paddle had potential minus the sweet spot. The 001, there was no upside to that paddle.
Yeah.
And then, throw in $333 and now
it was pretty below average on all accounts, like feel, touch, spin, sweet spot. Like, I don't think it had really anything going for it. However, yesterday I did see somebody in the wild with one. I don't know if it was one of the new reworked ones, but it was in an Invictus shape, and I was like, oh, somebody out here playing.
I saw someone at MLP with it too, and I thought, are you crazy? Like, what do you enjoy about this paddle?
I don't know. They just feeling nothing in their souls when they hit with it.
It has to be. I don't know, man. That was not a good paddle. My next one, I think it is the most overrated paddle in all of pickleball. I genuinely do not believe that there's a more overrated paddle than this one. That award goes to the Onyx Z5.
Oh, what's so bad about the Z5?
Dude, Z5's a piece of garbage.
What?
It's so bad. Here's the thing. $80 to $90. You go, okay, it's $80 to $90. What do you expect?
Right, exactly.
I don't expect much.
Yeah.
But the handle feels terrible, incredibly thin, horrible shape. It's using Nomex in the core only. It sounds horrible when you hit it, and it's so loud, and it has no touch or feel to it. The only thing it's good for is if you want to hit the ball hard, and when you're newer, the hard part of the game is the soft stuff. So why use a paddle that makes that stuff hard? Like, I went out and played with it recently, and I just thought, how on earth did this paddle get to be probably the number one most popular paddle for that price? And I think the Rockney Curve Classic is better. I think the Franklin Signature, and when I say better, I think leaps and bounds better.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, puts the thing to shame. So Rockney Curve Classic, Franklin Signature, and these paddles aren't out yet, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more later. Mm-hmm. But the upcoming SOK Evo line, infinitely better than the Onyx. I just, dude, I don't understand. I think that paddle is only popular because at one point it was probably good when Nomex was popular, and it's priced cheaply. I think it's in Dick's and maybe Walmart and a couple other stores, but I would never in a million years recommend that to anyone in pickleball.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. I think for that price point, I think it's perfectly fine. I will say it is loud. If you care about what your neighbors think of you, don't play with it because it is obnoxiously
So, but now
loud.
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
Have you hit a Rockney Curve Classic at all?
I'm not.
Okay. You've hit a Franklin Signature?
Of course.
Okay. If you were gonna pick between those,
Yeah, no, Franklin.
which would you pick?
It'd be the Franklin.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing: Franklin is $100, technically more expensive, but their things are constantly on sale. There's like a constant code. It might be Forum 20 for Franklin. I'm not sure, but it'll get you 20% off. Pretty much puts you in the ballpark of the Onyx. So please save a friend. If you know anyone going to buy an Onyx Z5, tell them not to. Save a friend. Save their pickleball career. Start their path out right. Even though the Franklin has its own problems with grit, the Z5 doesn't even have any grit to begin with. So it's already worse off. I don't know. That paddle's just...
Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
What's your next one?
Let's see. For the short time I played with it, which I think is a little overrated, is the Electrum Pro 2. I think we probably agree on that one. I know you didn't have nice things to say about that one either. I just felt, I don't know. I felt like the original Electrum Pro was better, in my opinion. It just doesn't do anything really well. Sweet spot seems a little bit smaller. It seems less unforgiving. Although I do like the way it looks, though. I like.
Oh, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
To me, it doesn't feel very stable. The sweet spot was definitely an issue. You feel a lot of vibration. It is more head heavy. So if you have a weaker wrist or anything, that's going to be a problem. It just feels, I think the potential on it is maybe good. Thomas Wilson uses one. So I think
he's the only one I know that he uses it.
Yeah, literally the only pro that I know uses it. There might be one other one, maybe a lower tier pro, but it just isn't good. Spin is fine, I guess. And, when you get to be a pro, I think you want to be able to hit harder. It fits that bill very well, but I'd recommend almost any other raw carbon paddle on the market over that. I think it might be my least favorite raw carbon paddle. I thought the Warrior Edge was that for me, but I think the Electrum Pro is actually ahead of it. Or behind it, depending on how you want to phrase that.
No, the Warrior Edge is leaps and bounds better than the Pro 2.
Yeah, I think it is so, noticeably better than the Pro 2. Yeah. But the only two raw carbon paddles I think that I have hit that I really thought, wow, just don't love these, was the Warrior Edge. The Warrior Edge isn't terrible. It just isn't for me. I don't think it's objectively a bad paddle. Pro 2 starts hinting more towards, it's really not a great paddle. My next one, unless you have any other comments you want to make about the Pro 2.
No, I have nothing. I'm more on the Pro 2.
Okay. This one, I know this isn't going to be popular. You and I have talked about this. You think I'm a little crazy.
I do.
Gearbox CX11E, hate it.
Okay.
I hate it.
I don't mind it. Doesn't your wife play with the CX11E?
She does, and it causes strife every day. I am trying so hard. I told her the other day, I said, you know what? You'd probably play better with a different paddle. Let me give you one of the other 100 paddles in the house.
Yeah.
Please play with something else. But no, her and my mother-in-law love that paddle, and they both use the same one.
See, I told you. Something about it.
I think for newer people and tennis converts, for some reason, they just don't mind the gearbox. And now, to be clear, I actually really don't mind the CX11Q very much. My review of both these paddles should be out by the time this podcast is out, I believe. So if you haven't seen it yet, you can go check that out. I discuss my thoughts further. But I really didn't mind the CX11Q, and I thought I would hate that one. The E is the one I thought I would like, and I just can't do it. The sweet spot is so bad. When you get to the edges, the ball feels very dead. And I think I didn't say this in my review.
I think it's just something with the edgeless. I think it's because it's edgeless. That's why it feels the way that it feels.
But see, other paddles don't have the issue as bad. I think it's a combination of edgeless and the core that they're using with their carbon fiber ribs or whatever. Because to me, the 003 Pro Kenix, the Power Air, and I'm probably forgetting another notable edgeless paddle, they don't feel nearly as dead to me as the CX11E does when you get to the edge.
Yeah, no, I can kind of see that. And I mean, like, it's not that I hate it. I think from like an objective standpoint, for the right person, I think it's a solid paddle. If you like that kind of feel, but yeah, if you're not for it, it's definitely not for you. Out of the Gearbox line, I definitely prefer the CX14 line way more than the CX11 line. And I still have, I think, a Gearbox GX6, which is basically the precursor to their CX11 line. So I don't know, I haven't had enough time with the CX11 line to make a formed opinion about it, but I can see why it's not for you. Knowing what I know about you and the paddles that you like, I can see why you do not like the CX11.
And I think, too, just to clarify, it's not that the paddle is, minus maybe the sweet spot, I don't think it's objectively bad. Gearbox, I like Gearbox as a company. I think that they're one of the only companies pushing very unique innovation. The paddles are tanks. They get good spin despite not having grit. That's not true anymore. They do
to
have
the new CX14s.
Yes, and 11s. People think the 11s don't have it, but they do. I've clarified that with Gearbox, and I even went to one of my local shops and felt one, and I ran a stare-at meter on them. I took one that didn't have it and one that did, and the one that did, the stare-at meter reading was way higher. So, yeah, both definitely have it. I told you this, and you said I should put this in my review, but I had already recorded the review. The way I describe Gearbox paddles, or how I will describe them moving forward, it's like cilantro. There are people in the world that actually have a genetic thing about them where it makes cilantro taste, I think people say like dish soap, or they just hate it.
Yeah.
Like it tastes really bad to them. And then other people, like me, I love cilantro. I think it's amazing. And that's exactly how Gearbox works. The people who love them, it's the most loyal following in pickleball. There's no more loyal fan than a Gearbox fan. But if you hate a Gearbox paddle, it's like you took it personally. the paddle's existence. Yeah. And I took that personally. So yeah, the CX11E is not for me, unfortunately. But I know it is for other people. So take that for what you will. Okay. How about you? Do you have any other ones? Because I've got at least one other one.
I have at least one, maybe another one. But the one that comes to mind, I'll say I don't like it, but to be honest, I didn't give it a fair shot, a good enough amount of time with it. But it's actually the ProKinetics Black Ace.
Okay, you need to describe that one to me because a lot of people were talking about that online today.
What did they say?
People think it is going to be ProKinetics' version of a raw carbon fiber paddle. Is that what the surface was?
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Oh, really? So it is one of those surfaces. Okay, from the pictures, it didn't look like it.
It doesn't look like it, but if you touch and you go wherever the outline of the spade is, that feels or looks like what you see in other raw carbon fiber T700 faces. And I thought I would enjoy it more because in Atlanta, PPA Peachtree Atlanta, I got to hit with the Ovation Pro Flight or Speed? I can't remember. I don't know.
Was it the blue one?
It was a blue one. It was circular. It was
Pro
like
Flight.
light. Yeah, and it was light blue. And I actually enjoyed that one quite a bit. I was like, oh, I liked it a lot. And I thought maybe that the Black Ace would kind of feel like that, but it have more spin essentially with the the carbon fiber grit or whatnot. And it would feel similar, but it didn't feel like that to me. I felt like the Ovation. It was poppy, but it felt controllable. It had this nice feel to it, and it felt surprisingly, what's the word, plush. But the Ace felt like a board to me. Probably what you feel, how you feel about the Gearbox CX11, and I could kind of say they felt a little similar. I don't know if it was the sound or something. Like I said, I didn't give it enough time, but initially, I was not a fan of it. Like I was like, no, I don't like it. But yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I'm definitely curious about it. I wasn't looking at the pictures. I wasn't convinced it was a raw carbon fiber surface. So it's kind of nice that you had some insight on that because I haven't heard basically anything about that paddle. Yeah.
I mean, take a look at it. I mean, I do see some pros and whatnot play with it, and they seem to like it. I mean, Kyle McMakin's twin brother, I saw him playing with it at minor league, and he was wrecking people with it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Well, my last one that I have, I might be able to think of some more if you have another one after this, but the flip shot from One Shot. Oh my goodness. I will applaud them for trying a new concept. Again, I think that's great. I think people need to do it. And it kind of like with Selkirk. Yeah, 001 flopped, but look at the 002. They've thrown out a bunch of stuff this year. Some was good, some wasn't. But the stuff that did stick, it's like, oh, well, applaud you for trying. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Flip Shot. the concept of it was one side was carbon fiber and the other side was fiberglass. So one side was for power, one side was for control. But on paper, that sounds kind of cool. In reality, the sides were not that different. I think you could tell a small difference if you've hit a lot of paddles, you could feel the difference. But there was a couple key problems with it for me. One, in what scenario am I going to be okay, let's say my backhand is the power side and my forehand's the control side.
Yeah.
What if there's a shot that I don't want that, right? Now I have to think about different power levels depending on the side of the paddle I'm hitting, and you're not going to rotate paddle side. Like, let's say an overhead's coming, you want to flip to the power side. I just don't think you're going to do that. I think that's a bad idea. And then surface, paint grit, that's immediate. You get a bit of a thumbs down, points taken off for that one. Mine, after probably a week and a half of playing with it, the butt cap was breaking. I think it was coming loose. That could be a defect. I'll maybe cut them some slack there. But the build quality didn't feel great. The paddle as a whole felt kind of cheap. And it just was not good. Everyone I gave that paddle to, no one liked it. I had a friend that said the Gamma $50 paddle he started with, he would rather play with that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's I think that concept really flopped. I jokingly sometimes.
There was another company that tried to do it. Pro XR. They tried to do one. What was it called? The
Story?
The Story. Yes. Yeah.
Didn't you get to hit it?
Yeah, I got to hit it. And actually it's not a bad paddle. It's not for everybody. It's a little weird. That little handle, that butt cap shape is not for everybody.
You're even more limited on the Pro XR. You literally can only choose one side for forehand or backhand because you can't rotate it.
I mean, you can rotate it. It's just not
you can,
as
but then
yeah,
it's really awkward. Then it defeats the whole purpose of the handle.
Well, I mean, no, because if you have the two sides and you're going to hold it one way, then no, it actually probably enforces that you use one side over another.
No, yeah. But I'm saying, what if my backhand side is the power side?
Yeah.
But what if I want the control side on my backhand? The only way to do it would be to rotate the handle 180 degrees, and now the butt, like I'm holding it in a way that it wasn't meant to be held.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it would totally be awkward. But I think that concept is just not like executed correctly, at least as of right now. I think somebody in the future will be able to make one that you can actually feel the difference and like do it right,
I think the big problem is for pickleball, the core has a really big impact on the feel and how the ball is going to react.
Yeah.
Obviously in combination with the face, but I think to just have two different sheets isn't enough to make them feel drastically different. I almost feel that you would have to find a way to divide the cores up.
Yeah, and you'd have to have different cores for each side, and then also have like the sheet of the fiberglass or the carbon fiber on either side. It was just like in table tennis, they choose the rubbers and then they choose the padding and the thickness of the padding on each side, and that makes sense. But also because in table tennis, I feel like the techniques used to execute certain shots on the backhand and the forehand have been honed and dialed in for so long. Table tennis has been around for forever. I mean, not that pickleball is like that, brand new to the block as well. But people are still trying to figure out, what kind of shots and stuff you can do. I just don't know how effective it will be. But basically, I don't think you'll be seeing something like that that's truly that different or drastic anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, unless you've got another one, that mostly concludes my list.
Yeah.
And these are ones, when I say this, I strongly dislike these paddles. There are other paddles that I don't vibe with or I don't love, but these ones were just a extra special spot
of hate in Chris's cold heart.
Yes, they gained an extra spot.
Oh my gosh, yeah, they're probably underneath like some tarp somewhere in your room collecting dust. Never seen the light of day.
Well, the Onyx Z5 is staring me right in the face right now. I kind of want to throw it at my wall.
You should have your wife play with it, see what she feels. See if she.
Man, if she played with a Z5 and really liked it, I would question a lot of things. Would
you rather have her play with the gearbox or the Z5?
Gearbox.
Oh, really?
Gearbox, because at least I know that actually has things about it that are good.
Okay.
There's nothing good about the Z5.
Okay,
Nothing.
okay, all right. There's like probably like 50 people out there listening to us right now that is like, oh crap, I gotta switch my paddles before Chris sees me.
Well, okay, you know, I actually do have a funny story.
What?
So the day I was trying the Z5, I was on the court. Public courts are getting kind of busy, and I'm loud, as you know. My voice carries.
Yes.
And I was ranting to my friend about the Z5. I was like, dude, I don't know why anyone would buy this. It's so bad. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
He starts kind of giving me some cues, and I was like, what's he trying to say right now? And I eventually realized the person behind me on the court next to me had a Z5 and could hear everything I was saying.
It's okay.
And I could tell they were newer to pickleball, so they were probably thinking,
now you got them
what
really.
Did I buy?
You probably made them super like self-aware.
I gave them buyer's remorse.
Yeah, give them buyer's remorse. Oh my gosh! And that's when you hit them. That's when you hit them. Here, this is my Just Paddles affiliate link. Go buy something else.
I'm not that savage, but I know there are people out there who would do that. I know people in my local dealers in my area who would do that.
Oh yeah, there's some shills out there. Let's be real.
Oh
for
yeah,
certain paddles.
I know. Oh dude, gosh, don't even get me started on that.
Trust me.
I've got a list of shills in my brain, and I check it twice.
Yeah. Okay.
So to contrast our least favorite paddles, I want to talk about the paddles that we think are exceptionally good, or that we just really like.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Okay. So I'll let you kick us off.
Ooh, all right. So a paddle that I really like, at least when I say like, it's really just me playing with them, is right now I've been really actually enjoying the Hyperion 14 millimeter that just came out. So that and the Solar, they're almost like the same. So that's one paddle that I really like. I don't know. What do you think about that paddle?
No, I for sure think the 14 millimeter is really good. When you were here, I actually enjoyed the Swift version quite a bit. That's the one I played with most, and the one I ended up adding lead tape to, just because I felt I could add more lead tape to it because it had a lighter starting point. And oddly enough, the 14 Swift was way better than the 16 Swift was. And I think there's a couple reasons. One, the spin doesn't suck on the 14 millimeter Swift for whatever reason. That one was plenty gritty. I think because the 14 millimeter is already thinner, so you expect a little less edge foam, and you expect it to be more poppy, you're maybe a little more okay with it not feeling as solid, whereas the original Hyperion is a tank, and then the 16 Swift just doesn't feel that solid. So I basically, long story short, I think the 14 Swift is very solid, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. And it didn't seem to have the same issues that I had with the 16 Swift.
True that. I would agree. I think it's funny, though, because I think if you gave that paddle to me maybe 3 months ago, like earlier this summer, probably wouldn't be on my list of favorite. I mean, I would think it's good.
It wouldn't be?
It wouldn't be on my list of like favorite paddles. My paddle. Well, we'll get into this later, but right now I'm going through somewhat of a paddle dilemma / crisis right now.
You have been going through this for a while.
Yeah, for the past, I feel like 2-3 months. I feel like I've been going through it, and yeah, we'll go back into that later. But yeah, that's one paddle that tops my list of my favorite paddles at the moment right now. Yeah. What about you?
I would agree with that. That was also on my list as well. My current one, this has been my primary paddle since I got it. I've really loved it. I've had a lot of questions about it. 003 Invicta, love it. When the 003 came out, I pretty much switched to that right away. So I've been using a 003 since July or late June about now. It was the Epic, and I wasn't in love with the Epic, but I liked the paddle enough to put up with the shorter shape. That's the only reason I didn't like it, is I just prefer elongated. Selkirk was nice enough to get one in Invicta shape in my hands early. I begged them for it. I said, please, I really love the long shape, and I'm really excited about the long handle. Can I please have one of these?
And
they were like, okay, Chris, geez. No, they didn't say that, but
yeah,
they did get me one, and I've really enjoyed it since.
Yeah, this is where Selkirk says only if you give it a positive review.
Okay, for those of you who don't understand that's sarcasm, That has never happened. Just to be fully clear, I want to make sure that there's no confusion on Reddit later. Reddit, okay.
Yeah.
Just rant real quick. Reddit is where if there's any hate about me, it's always Reddit. I don't know what it is about Reddit, man. And I don't get a lot of it.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna see it, that's where I see it as Reddit.
No, it's fine. No, if you ain't doing it right if you don't got a few haters here and there, and it's fine.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But
People hate.
never had a company tell me to say positive things. I wouldn't work with them if they did say that to me. And I'd probably let you guys know that they tried to do that to me.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, 003. Yeah, this is your current paddle of choice, right?
Yep. I really like it. You do have to add lead tape. I have basically a full ounce of lead tape on it. It's not perfect out of the box, but I add lead tape to almost
all your paddles
these days.
So this is funny because you and I mean, not that I haven't added lead tape to my paddles in the past, but I judge a paddle by how it is straight out of the box. That's how I look at it. And I make my recommendations to people based on how it is stock. And I did like the 003, and I really like your changes to your 003. I feel like if you gave me your 003, I could go to a tournament and feel pretty comfortable. It's like, the reset machine. And I'm actually kind of surprised that after I hit Witchers that I also didn't switch to it, because prior to that, because I think you and we play with very similar tastes in paddles, like style of paddle. I feel like we've pretty much gone through the same paddles in our lifetime until very recently, Yeah. But that's
it's good for anyone who's been wondering. There's not a drastic difference between it and the Epic. I don't know if people were hoping that it would have more power. I didn't necessarily feel that it had more power. I know in elongated shape, a little more leverage, you should get more power, but it wasn't enough for me to feel noticeable. So if you're expecting that, I wouldn't really get your hopes up. It's basically the Epic, but in a way better shape. I think elongated's awesome, and I thank you, Selkirk, for finally doing this. They have upgraded their handle to a 5.5-inch handle, which is awesome. 5 1/4 is just too short, or really pushing it for a two-handed backhand for me. And since I've been trying to use that more, that was more frustrating on the Epic. The 5.5-inch handle is pretty nice. I will say, it's not the best 5.5-inch handle I've ever hit. One thing I want to start talking about in my reviews, I've told you about this a little bit, Will, is that depending on how the neck tapers on a paddle, actually drastically impacts how the handle feels. So one thing I noticed is that Diadem lists their Warrior handle as 5 inches. If you tell me 5 inches on paper, I'm going to tell you I will not like this handle. Mm-hmm. It does not feel like 5 inches, and that's because of how the neck tapers. You can actually put your hand up a little bit higher on what isn't technically the handle, but is still an easy place to hold. Yola also does this. The taper on theirs is good. Yep. One that tapers poorly is the Power Air. That's a 5 1/4 handle, and it feels a lot worse than what supposedly is a 5-inch handle on the Diadem. When you hold them up, I think they actually do look the same. So someone's measurements are off there. But
I play with the Power Air right now. It's one of my go-to paddles right now, and I can tell you that the handle does feel, in my opinion, substantially shorter, especially substantially shorter than your 003 for sure. And it's one of my very small gripes about that paddle.
Yep. So keep that in mind when you guys think about handle lengths. The neck taper really does matter. I think on the 003, the neck tapers a little earlier, so you don't get to hold up as high as something maybe as a Yola, but it's not bad. It's a huge improvement over the other handle length they were using, but I still think that other people have a slightly better 5.5-inch handle.
You think they'll be updating all their shapes with kind of that new taper?
I really hope so. I think the way the game's going, everyone, for the most part, wants a longer handle, or at least the option. And I think only having 5 1/4 in kind of your flagship shape is a little bit of a mistake. Because the Epic and Invicta had the same handle length shape, but one was wider and one was longer. So I just think the Invicta deserves a longer handle, and I hope that is what they do.
Okay.
I think most people probably would agree with that. But Yeah. What's next on your list?
Okay, let's see. Well, we did kind of just mention it, but I guess the Power Air is a paddle that I have come to enjoy a lot more. The more that I play with it, the more that I've enjoyed it. I wasn't initially going to play with it and switch to it, but here I am. Now it's pretty much in my bag. I always take it as an option to go play with, as I'm still trying to figure out which paddle I want to play with, and mainly it's because of the pop that it has. I can't play with the 002. I know some people like really, some like at least higher level players really like the 002, and I just feel like I see it everywhere. At least when the pros play, I feel like
agreed.
002 or the Yola Hyperion, and
Yep.
couldn't play with the Yola Hyperion like 16 because it was too head heavy for me, at least for extended use. And then 002, I don't know. I think it just shows like my skill cap. I just feel like you have to be really good to be able to play with that paddle like really well. And
you have to be really good.
yeah, so clearly I'm not good enough for that paddle. So yeah, I've been trying to play with the Power Air. Even the Power Air is testing my limits as a player right now.
Selkirk was the first company. At first, when I saw them put a skill rating on the paddle, I thought, that's really weird and feels odd. On paper, I thought, I don't really think that matters or I agree with, because I think it said you should be a 4-5 player to use it, and I thought, it's kind of weird. But it's true. The 002 is the first paddle I believe that has hit the market where if you're better, the paddle is going to work better for you. And if you're a lower rating, you will mishit it so much and it will feel bad. I think it has a high skill ceiling, and I think for you golfers out there, it's kind of similar to blades. So I play a little bit of golf. I'm not a huge golfer. So right. Hopefully I'm not misquoting this, but I believe blades are the ones pros use, and they're a lot harder to use, but if you can use them, the payoff is good. And this, like, maybe the sweet spot smaller, whereas, what everyone else uses, cavity back, I think, has feels a little better and bigger sweet spot, but maybe you can't hit it as far. Yeah. Same thing with the 002. It was the first paddle that's ever done that. Anything else, I would have said, I don't think you have to be a better player to use this thing. But that one, totally true.
No, I think that's totally true. I mean, it's also the same with tennis rackets. There are some rackets, on the market that it's, probably not best for an intermediate or beginner player to use. First things that come to mind are like some of the rackets in like the Wilson Pro Staff line that have a smaller head size, or one that have tighter string patterns, or obviously ones that are just heavier in general are pretty difficult to wield and play and use effectively. So, I can totally see that for sure.
Yeah. Well, my next one, man, we were talking about this the last few days.
Okay.
This paddle is not out yet. I just got them in, and I was told I could talk about them early. Okay. And I'm glad, because I was going to have a hard time keeping my mouth shut.
Yes.
The SLK Evo paddles, specifically the power one, are absolutely going to smoke things in the $100 price range.
Really?
I'm not 100% sure if I'm actually... I think it is that good. It's really good, dude.
What?
Here's the thing. I need to preface this. I genuinely don't know how to explain it. The spin is not top tier. Well,
wait. Hold on. For any of you guys out there, if you guys aren't familiar with the SLK line, it's essentially Selkirk's, I guess, what was your budget line? All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just get that out.
I believe their lowest paddles go somewhere maybe $50-ish, and then I don't know what the highest they go
bundles that you get at like Costco or Walmart or something. They come with two. There's like a indoor ball or whatever that says SLK on it. They come in some bright cotton candy colors. So they made something that you really like.
Yes, and when they said they were sending them over, I was kind of okay, the SLK line, whatever. I don't know. I don't really care. When I went and hit it, I was really impressed. Spin numbers were between, so there's 3 models. There's a control, a hybrid, and a power. And they were all 1450 and above. I think only one hit 1450. The other 2 were 1490. So you're almost talking about top tier spin. And when you're talking about a $100 paddle, almost 1500 RPM, even over 1300 RPM would be amazing for a $100 paddle. So that alone is kind of like, wow, that hits a really nice spot for that price. I think that's one of the first paddles in the industry to do that. I don't know how the longevity is going to hold up, but obviously we'll be testing that and see how it does. But something about the power, man, it just... I've been playing singles because I'm getting ready for nationals.
Yeah.
And I have enjoyed it so much the last few days that I genuinely think that's what I'm going to use at nationals.
No way.
I've had the paddle for 2 days.
Lose the paddle. I shouldn't have switched.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I lost because of the paddle. But seriously, when I go back to my 003, it still feels fine for singles, but I definitely get more plow through on the Evo Power. And when I play people, they all say you hit noticeably harder with this. And here, people said the same thing about the Power Air. When I played singles, they said, dude, you hit harder with this. Like certain shots are actually harder for me to get to compared to when you play with the 003. The problem with the Power Air was that I couldn't dink or play the short game cat and mouse at all. It was really, really bad. I would spray balls, and that's why I went back to the 003 for singles. With the Power, I don't feel like I have that same problem. It almost feels as an in-between of the 003 and Power Air in terms of power level. Still feel like I have really good control, but I can also hit the ball just hard enough to where clearly my opponents are noticing it. And then it just feels a little better to me. So it's weird. I want people to understand that I don't think this is going to replace the top tier paddles. I don't think if you use a Hyperion 16 millimeter that you're going to go, wow, I'm switching to a Evo Power or any of the Evo paddles. But I think for $100, I put it in the perspective of the price here. For that price, crazy. I think this might finally be the paddle that makes the Franklin Signature stop being the king of the $100 price point.
Really? Okay, that good to know. I think there's some other. I guess we'll probably go and talk about it more. But another budget line that comes to mind that I heard performs really well is the Omega line, which is Engage's budget line, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've hit those a bit, not extensively yet. I do really want to get to those. I can't remember. They have one that's 110, and then the price goes up. So I know it's like 110, 130, 140, and then if you go to their raw carbon fiber paddle, it's 150, 160, somewhere in that area. Yeah, they feel pretty good. The 110 one, I think, would perform pretty adequately, but I hit that and didn't, immediately go, wow, I love this thing. And when I went out just to hit the Evo Power, it was like instant. I don't know. It's crazy. I genuinely can't even believe I'm saying that about a $100 paddle and that I would consider switching just a few days before nationals. So that should tell you that there's something about the paddle that's good. The Evo Power is a little bit more head heavy. I will say I've noticed my my wrist and my arm being a little more tired using it. I haven't checked the swing weight and stuff yet, but I think it is going to be a little bit on the higher side. Not as head heavy as a Ben Johns. Definitely not that head heavy, but it's higher than what I'm used to.
Okay.
So
all right.
Keep an eye out for those. I think the control is also pretty solid, but most of my time has been spent with the Power. So keep an eye out.
Okay. All right. Well,
what's next for you?
My next favorite paddle, I would just put both of them in the same thing. I think you'd probably agree is the Diadem Warrior, and even to some extent the Warrior Edge.
You lost me at Warrior Edge.
I know you don't like. I know you don't like the Warrior Edge as much. I think there are because there's so many other, I guess, raw carbon fiber paddles out there.
And just you wait. If you guys have made it this far on the podcast, I got a good rant coming. Will is gonna have to listen to me rant for a little bit because I got a rant about raw carbon.
All right. Well, I do like at least I was playing and I still am playing with the Edge just a little bit, but a lot less and less. I still bring it with me. It's kind of like a backup paddle for me at this point in time, but I really did and still do enjoy the original Diadem Warrior, and I think a lot of people do. No, it's a good, solid paddle. I think I just like it. Like when it just comes out of the box, I just feel like it's super solid. Just the weight is perfect. The balance is just right. I think it has a good blend of power and touch, and out of the box it has good spin. Of course, I think there are problems with it's not perfect. The grit kind of wears down, which I know is what issues that you've had with it in the past. But yeah, I like it. I think it looks good. Like,
I heard recently too, someone told me that actually just yesterday, I believe, that they had someone who had the Teal Warrior and had 2 break in a couple months. And so still makes me wonder about the durability of them. That was an issue when it came out. I can't confirm that it is still an issue. But even despite that, I still think it's an awesome paddle. When I was using that paddle, it was the first paddle in pickleball that I used, and I went, wow, I really, really like this thing. So I feel like it just has a special place in my heart.
No, it has a special place in my heart too, because when the teal one just came out and I just got it, and that's the paddle that I used to beat you the first time we played, and it's recorded and it's now lives.
Do you still have that same paddle?
Yeah, I still have it, dude. That thing's gonna be framed.
Hey, bring it next time I see you. I'm gonna burn it. Gonna make sure it gets broken.
Yep. That paddle is now part of history.
Real quick, because I'm just realizing we're at about an hour at this podcast. This is going to be a long podcast. I don't really care that this is going to be long.
Yeah.
But to prevent it from being really long, I'm just going to kind of breeze through my next favorite ones.
Okay.
Because I've talked about them a little bit.
Yeah.
We already talked about the 14 millimeter Hyperion. Yep. I think the Hyperion 16 is still like one of the greatest paddles on the market. We'll
Agreed.
get to some of the issues that people have with them a little bit later. No paddle is perfect, but performance-wise, I love that paddle. Dude, when I was just bouncing a ball around the other day, I just remembered why I liked it so much. It just feels so good. And the head heaviness never really bothered me. I do feel my hands are slower, but it was never enough to deter me for that to be the sole reason I didn't use the paddle. So Hyperion 16 millimeter, still an awesome paddle. Still love it. Swift version, skip, whatever. Don't buy that, but the regular one's great. Next one's Electra Model E. I've talked about that before. Still think it's an awesome paddle. Just a good paddle. My brother loves it. He's been using it for months now. And my last one is the Head Radical Tour Co. Still a great paddle. I love that thing. It's just a fun paddle.
Yeah. It needs to come with a longer handle. That's what it needs to
Yes, I do think it'd be awesome if they made that with a longer handle. But even in its current form, they really did a good job with that one.
All right.
Do you have any other ones you want to add?
No, not really. I mean, I might give an honorable mention to the Grooven 16H, but that's really about it for, I guess, my most favorite paddle. I mean, obviously, there are other paddles out there that I really do enjoy, that I could easily switch to. But I mean, we're talking about my favorites, the ones that I gravitate to, that I pull out of my bag or my closet to go hit with. Those are the ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally. Same. There's a lot of other paddles. There's even other paddles I wanted to mention that enjoy.
You have a whole warehouse over there.
Oh my God. I know. I could be a pickleball retailer at this point. So I don't know if you want to talk about your paddle switching dilemma or if you felt you've talked about it enough. But
I'll talk about it. I think everybody kind of goes through this. I think right now I have, aside from just drilling more and practicing more, which I really haven't been able to do, we've been traveling around so much and whatnot, I have plateaued a little bit, I would say. I think I can still reach hard, but I plateaued in terms of skill level, like a little bit. I think I can still play better. I don't always play at my best all the time, but now I'm searching for, I guess, what you could say a shortcut to get more performance out of myself without putting in the practice and the work, which really is what I really just should be doing, honestly. And obviously an easy way to go through that is to try and find better equipment. And it really wasn't a thing until I played 5-0 for the first time back in Atlanta, like 2 tournaments back to back. And I was playing with the Diadem Warrior Edge, stocked, and I did come to really enjoy it and really know that paddle, like what I can do with it and whatnot. And when I played 5-0, at least in doubles and whatnot, I could reset all day. But eventually, people would just burn me. Like, I can only reset for so long. I couldn't attack back. And then when I did attack, I just felt like I didn't have that extra oomph. And I didn't have that extra put away power. I'm kind of a small guy. Anyways, it's really hard. So I've been looking for a paddle that's a little bit more powerful. So I was playing with the Radical Tour and the Power Air. And so right now I am between the Power Air and the Warrior Edge, and I'm also looking at some of the 14 millimeter options available from Yola, such as the Hyperion 14, just to give me that a little bit of extra pop and I'm just not entirely sure. I think I want the Power Air to be kind of it right now, just because I put so much time into it. But man, resetting and stuff with that is still hard. I think that's just me. If I drilled with it, maybe, but I don't know if I'm ready for it. So that's where I'm at right now. And then with so many more paddles like coming out, and I get some now in the mail and whatnot, I have this grass is always greener on the other side syndrome, as I would call it, like so.
Well, it's just, sometimes, at least the way I look at it, isn't even necessarily that, oh, this paddle's way better. It's just even in the time I've been playing, I've gone through phases where I go, okay, this is what my game needs more of right now, and this paddle helps me do more of that in my game. And I think everyone kind of goes through that cycle where my problem right now is that I really need to be able to hit the ball harder because I put aways or people make fun of me all the time. My brothers, my friends locally here,
yeah,
it's seriously a joke. They just go, when I in overhead goes up, people on both sides, my teammate or my opponents, will just say, kill it, like put it away. And then, I just can't. Obviously, some of that is body mechanic. I'm not saying it isn't, but I also just play with a lot of soft paddles. So that's part of my issue. So that's kind of what I'm working on now is I gotta figure out how to hit the ball harder.
I hear you. And I'm kind of like I said, I'm kind of going through the same thing, but it's like, how much do you sacrifice of what you're comfortable with to try to gain that extra bit of performance? And I feel like the Power Air right now is really on that cusp for me of I might be sacrificing a little bit too much. Like I just feel like before when with the Edge and some other 16 millimeter paddles you play with, I felt like I didn't miss too many dinks or drops. But with Power Air, they pop up a little bit too high, and I'm paying for it. Yep. Yeah. So that's really what it is right now.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, the next thing I want to talk about, because there's a lot of things kind of mixed into this one, is just paddle longevity.
Yeah.
Specifically grit, because this has been a really hot topic in pickleball lately. It's kind of always been a topic, but really recently people have been talking about grit. So I want to talk about a couple things. So raw carbon fiber for a long time.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, everyone believed spin doesn't fade. Like it's raw carbon fiber, it's weaved, there's no applied grit to go away, it lasts forever. Okay, first of all, nothing lasts forever. So that just should have been a giveaway there. But recently, John Koo, who we've talked about, and his last name is Kew. If you look up John Koo Pickleball on YouTube, he's got a couple videos, makes some great stuff. Check him out. He has a video that also talks about this more in depth. But he put a Yola under a microscope that had lost a lot of spin. So that's why I stopped using the Hyperion originally, is after about 2 months, I noticed a severe loss in spin performance, and it was really noticeable to me, even coming from a Model E. So he put it under a microscope and noticed that there were micro tears in the carbon fiber, and there were even holes, really small holes in the face, basically where the carbon fiber had flattened out. It was no longer like a bumpy weave, it was flat. You can't see it with your eye, but with a microscope, very obvious. So that was a really interesting finding. I think people were already catching on. Okay, clearly there's an issue. We just don't know what. Now we have a better idea. I've put a bunch of my paddles under a microscope. I went and bought one, and I noticed the same thing as John on a couple paddles that have been used really heavily. My brother's Electrum Model E, which was formerly my Electrum Model E, is so beat up. Like that carbon fiber is flat.
Really?
Flat.
Does he feel like he's not getting enough spin? Because, I mean, I know grittiness affects spin potential, but it's not everything. So is it?
No, definitely not everything.
So it's not. So is it really losing that much RPM?
I think it is because I tested. So when I tested that one a long time ago, before my brother was using it. So, but basically, when I was doing spin tests earlier last year, some paddles were used paddles because I didn't have brand new ones of everything, so it wasn't feasible for me to do that. So my Model E was tested when it was used. I got about 1,300 RPM, and I thought, wow, that's really weird for Electrum, but maybe it just doesn't get as good of spin as everyone thought. So 1,300 wasn't great. That was before he used it. It's probably even worse now if I had to guess. A brand new 16 millimeter was like 1,680 RPM. So 380 is a pretty significant jump, and I'm willing to bet that my brother's is even lower now. And I think he notices, but I mean, I bet if I gave him the brand new one, he would prefer that. But he's got it pretty lead taped and configured and overgripped and everything the way he likes. So maybe I'll give him that the other one eventually here. But it does seem to cause an issue for sure. They will lose grit. The Yola was pretty noticeable.
Okay, so how many months did it take, or how many hours of extensive play did you need to have before you felt like it really dropped off in performance where it would be noticeable, or where you would consider getting a new one? Because that's what probably people want to know.
For my Yola, it was 2 months. But now here's the thing. It is going to depend so heavily. Anytime people ask us about paddles, you can't give a definitive answer because it just depends how much you play, right? Yeah. I'm on the court almost 5 days a week playing for 2 or 3 hours at a time. So that's a lot of really heavy play, whereas there's a lot more casual people 2 to 3 times a week, maybe play for an hour or two. Maybe they don't hit as hard. There's a lot of factors that go in. So for me, it was 2 months when I noticed, but for someone else, it could be 6 months. If you're even, maybe you're a 3-0 that plays once a week, it could easily last you over a year. You might not even ever notice. You probably won't notice that the spin dropped off. So it's really hard to say. A pro, I probably noticed it even faster than I did because they hit harder, they play harder, they play more. So that's really tough to say. And then also there's been talks about the Power Air not retaining grit. John Koo had said in his video that he noted there was a significant drop off.
How much?
On his. He's at 1,000 RPM.
No way.
And I'm shocked by that because my Power Air got used from May to August.
Yeah.
Singles and doubles, mostly singles for me. And my brother used it a little bit. I even traded it off with a couple other people. And when I tested it for my review, it was still hitting 1,800. That was after 3 months. Now, granted, maybe his was used even heavier. I don't know. There's so many variables.
Yeah.
How did you store the paddle? What conditions did you have it in? Are your cords sturdier? Whatever. I also retested my 003 Invicta because I've had it for maybe 2 months now.
And you play with that paddle a lot.
And I play with that paddle a lot. And it has dropped. So it went from about 1830 or somewhere in that range, and now it's about 1640. So it's still within about my top 10 of spin paddles I've ever tested, even after extensive use. So to me, that feels really good because it's still in the top 10 and it got used a bunch. So I think that's good, but clearly there's a drop. I did not see 1,000 RPM drop. Same thing with my 003 Epic. Same thing with 2 002s that my family used, my personal one, and then I got one for Patrick, and those both dropped to about 1,600 as well. So I have heard that there was potentially issues with John's, like a defective type of deal. So we'll have to wait and see. I think he's probably going to get another one. I'm sure he'll do more testing. But in my experience, the grit has held up either even better than raw carbon fiber or just as good at the very least. It's definitely not worse from what I've found. But
yeah, it ain't spray-on grit.
Yeah, definitely not spray-on grit. Even James Ignatowicz messaged me and he was like, dude, what is Selkirk doing? Why does the grit last so long? And I thought it was weird. He just texted me this yesterday.
Oh, really?
I thought it was weird that he was even asking me about this. But he clearly has even noticed, okay, this lasts a lot longer than other stuff out there. He's hit with some raw carbon fiber paddles, so I don't know exactly what his observations are, but he did ask me about it, and I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and James hits the crap out of that thing.
And he plays a lot. So
yeah, it hits the crap
if he's saying he feels it lasts a while, then I don't know.
So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for you. It's basically what we're trying to say.
Yeah, basically, because if you ever play James, it's scary. It's scary playing him. So one thing I also want to talk about on this note is that people say all the time, pickleball paddles are overpriced, they're getting more expensive, and they break.
Yes.
But I did a lot of research today because I've always thought, okay, let's compare it to tennis. That's what everyone always compares it to. They say, I buy a racket, I keep it for 10 years. It's
this is true.
You do keep that racket for 10 years, but you also have to restring that racket.
Yes.
And so I did quite a bit of research before this podcast episode about that. And here are some of the things I found. Okay. So a tennis racket is going to cost you anywhere between $200 and $250. There's probably ones that reach $300.
Yes.
I saw some that went up to about $270, but on average, $200 to $250.
Yep.
Okay, that's already more than most pickleball paddles.
Yes.
There's only a couple that push the $250 range, okay?
Yep.
Strings, those range anywhere between $5 and $20, and I think I even saw some strings that went up to $50.
Yes.
So
sure.
the range is pretty big there. I think it seems to be about $20 is maybe about average what you're going to expect to pay for a string.
Yeah.
And then labor,
20,
that could
is
be
it 15,
20-ish.
Yeah, you can say average around $20, but yeah, I mean, it goes anywhere from 12 to like $25 for labor.
Now, here's what I found. Okay,
Yeah,
so Pickleball Pros, the one people have been quoting recently because she was on our podcast was Anna Bright.
Okay.
She said, I go through my paddles in 3 weeks. And then a lot of people online started saying, that's just unacceptable. 3 weeks, that's insane for it to be worn out and have to get another one. And so I looked up, how often do tennis pros restring their tennis racket?
Yeah.
Every single day. If you say, and looking online, it seems to be the average to restring a racket is going to end up around $40.
Let's be clear though. You're comparing, I guess, top level pickleball players and top level tennis players that are playing at high levels. You know.
Yes, and I'll get to the average people too because I thought about that as well.
All right.
But for the pro, if you average $20 or $40 per restring and they have to do it every day, you're coming out to about $14,000 a year that it costs the tennis pro to have that restrung. Okay, now obviously they're getting everything for free, right?
Yeah.
They're not paying for that.
No.
But neither are these pros paying for their pickleball paddles. If you took Anna Bright at the rate she said she was wearing her paddles out, 3 weeks, that paddle's about $180 to $190, that would be about $3,000 a year. So substantially less money than what it theoretically costs that tennis pro to have it restrung. Now, if you did an average person restringing every 2 weeks, I think the average came out to about $1,000. And looking up, I saw a lot of different numbers for amateurs. So obviously it's going to vary, right? If you're a very casual player, play once a week, maybe a couple times a year, you probably don't even have to restring your racket once a year. Or maybe you should, but you wouldn't even notice the difference. It doesn't matter for you, right?
Most rec players don't. I mean, there's a lot of them that don't restring their tennis racket. They probably restring it maybe once every 3 months to potentially even 6 months, you know?
Yes. And so, obviously the average person, it matters less and they wouldn't even notice. Same thing I say for pickleball. If you're a 3-0, potentially even up to 3-5, even if you're losing a little bit of grit, you will not notice. Yeah. I just think there are no 3-0. If you're a 3-0, you're not applying enough spin to be able to notice when it's dropping because you have clearly other problems in your game if you're a 3-0. Potentially, I would argue up to 3-5, you could say the same thing. There are more fundamental things problematic in your game than the loss of spin on your paddle.
So then how do you notice? Because you're supposed to be 3-5 at best, though.
Well, I'm top of the food chain 3-5, right? Like we're talking about your average 3-5 at the park. I'll beat that 3-5 up all day long. Like I've trained to the upper echelons of 3-5.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
So at that rate, people, I would say, you could spend up to, let's say, 3 to 6 months. You're spending $200. So you could potentially spend up to about $800 a year if you're buying a new $200 paddle every 3 months, okay? You're coming out to a similar restringing cost as probably the tennis player that plays quite a bit. And now here's where I think some of the comparison gets lost on people that they don't consider.
Yeah.
Pickleball players are obsessive, right? Like they play potentially 5 days a week for multiple hours at a time. There are a lot of tennis players that don't play that often. So I think the average pickleball player plays more than the average tennis player does.
Okay.
And even if let's even just say it's equal or whatever, either way, it's a lot of wear and tear on your paddle. And I just think when you look at the cost of restringing, and if you're doing it at the rate when you're technically losing spin or power on a tennis racket, it's going to be the same thing for pickleball. And, people say, oh, well, it's a smaller increment I have to pay each time. Well, okay. How about every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks, you put $20 in a jar for your pickleball paddle, and that was your restringing cost that you would have had if you could do it like a tennis racket. And now when it's time to buy a new paddle, you've got all the money saved up.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I would have to agree with your findings. Me being a former pretty avid tennis player, I would say I strung my racket, and I usually carried 2 to 3, and I would just kind of cycle through them. But yeah, it would pretty much be at least one racket strung per week when I was playing a lot. And then if I was playing a little bit less, maybe every 2 weeks, I would restring a racket. And then sometimes I would just restring it just because I felt like it was losing just a little bit too much tension or whatnot. Like totally still serviceable. I can still play with it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just want the fresh string on there.
Yeah.
But
and if you're talking a week to 2 weeks, I mean, at a week, you double the initial number I said of about $1,000 a year. Now you're upwards of potentially $2,000. And so I just think it's more comparable than people think. People I see, they get kind of bent out of shape when they compare tennis and pickleball. Finally, they say, no, tennis is for sure cheaper. And just looking at the math, I don't think it is. Or if it is, it's not by much.
Yeah, I could see that. And pickleball it totally can be cheap. It just depends on like how much you're playing, how much performance you are really trying
to sacrifice yes.
or really extract out of your paddle. Like, I mean, I'll play with a paddle like, until the handle falls off, and like I'll still play with it and it'll be straight. But if I really want the absolute best performance, and sometimes I don't need the absolute best performance from my paddle all the time, unless like I'm going to a tournament or something. But if I'm playing casually or whatnot, I'm still want to play hard. Like it's totally fine, to be quite honest.
I just kind of think the expectation in pickleball, people for whatever reason have this thought that the equipment should be indestructible, and they're just so mad that this thing breaks and it's $200. And now I think there are things about the industry that could be fixed, right?
Let's
handle
be real.
snapping,
yeah,
like that stuff like that could be better, okay? But when we're talking about grit loss, I think that's extremely comparable to string. I'm not talking about handle snapping. I think that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
I think the industry needs to find ways to make stuff like that stop happening. Okay, it's like completely agree with that. But when you're talking about loss of power, loss of spin, to me, entirely comparable to a tennis racket. And you just kind of got to pony up the cost because they have to do it in tennis.
Right.
No one's. Oh, even in tennis, the thing is, some people could get away with not restringing, like they could just deal with a bad string. Some people just literally break it and they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But to go and restring. So. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to kind of talk about that because I find it weird that people have such high expectations for some of these things. And
well, I mean, I do think that paddle companies I still think there's a lot of room for improvement. I think they can make better
I agree.
quality products, especially if you're paying, the upwards of, 180 to 200, because let's be like some of the cost when I pay for a paddle, like 180 to 200, and I'm just looking and I'm feeling, the paddle in my hands. I'm like, this definitely does not feel like I got my money's worth, is what I'm trying to say. Like, look at let's say the breakdown for our buddy Shay. He did the paddle, tear down, and look at the materials that they're putting in there, right? Obviously, they're compensating for potentially some R&D and whatnot, but I just feel like some of the teardowns that he had, some of those paddles were just not worth that price. That's really what it is.
It's also, this is another interesting thing that, and I don't want to cut the companies too much slack because I agree. Companies need to be pushed, and I think they were pushed a little bit this year to start doing things better. One of the things I specifically want to see companies stop cheaping out on is handles, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But people always say, wow, the markup on pickleball paddles is insane, and it is a lot.
Yes.
I don't know the exact cost, but I know rough costs of paddles and what it costs the manufacturers to get some of these. But if you look at a lot of other industries in the world, the markup is even more insane or just as high, and no one bats an eye, right? Like soda. How much do you think it costs them to produce that can of pop?
All right.
You still gladly pay $2 for a can, or if you're desperate at a restaurant, $3 for a cup.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's not a completely perfect comparison, but I just think there's a lot of things where we pay insane markups day to day and we don't even bat an eye at. And then suddenly for the pickleball paddle, people go, how dare anyone need to make money for advertising, paying employees, whatever. It just, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I wonder why in this industry it's like that.
I think right now it's just because we're going through a paradigm shift in the money that's pouring in, the companies that are in what they're creating, and a lot of it is just market discovery right now. I mean, pickleball is still a fairly new industry, and so I think these manufacturers and these people are just testing limits on what is acceptable. And because, just think about maybe 5 to 10 years ago, you didn't see this type of stuff in pickleball paddles. People were probably still using some composite. I mean, people were using Nomex or whatever. Like,
people were using Z5s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that's the best they had.
Exactly.
There's better these days, people. Please stop using it. All right, that'll be the last time I mention that. But it's just there's an extra little bit of anger for me at that paddle.
Okay. Calm down now. Calm down.
I'm trying to breathe. I'm trying.
Yes. Breathe. All right, what's next on the list?
Yes, next on the list, this is my rant. I'm sorry, Will.
No,
you are in to hear me rant for a bit here.
That's what I'm here for. That's why we're friends.
Yes. Okay. I want to talk about raw carbon fiber paddles.
Oh, here we go.
These have absolutely flooded the market. And let me preface this with, I think raw carbon fiber is awesome. Some of the best paddles on the market use this surface. I think it's way better than a lot of paddle surfaces that were being used 2 years ago. No, in fact, I think it's definitively better than almost every surface 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're awesome. They generate amazing spin. People like how they feel. They're good paddles, okay? Let me preface that with that.
Okay.
But my problem is the industry is being completely flooded with these paddles everywhere, and people are falling for a lot of marketing hype, and they come to me and they want these reviews or whatever. Let me just list off paddle companies that I know make a raw carbon fiber paddle or are going to be making one soon. Okay? Yeah. We have Ace Pickleball, they're new.
Yep.
Diadem, Yola, X-Spac, that's that cheap $90 paddle that looks just like every other raw carbon fiber paddle, but
on
it's
Amazon.
sold by China. So I'm going to check that out at some point. But then we have 6-0, Legacy, Carbon, Electrum, Dink, ProLite, Vulcan, Pick Ninja, Grooven, Cheetah, Selkirk, and Rhombus. Okay, there's other ones. I know I forgot some.
Yeah.
That's a lot of companies. And at this rate, every single company is going to have it. Yeah. And I think that's fine. I think if companies want to be competitive and have a cheaper offering, you need this. Stop offering fiberglass. Start offering this. Now, my problem is companies are great at marketing, and people are great at falling for marketing. On Facebook, I'm seeing a lot of paddles. I'll leave the names out for now. I don't want to flame any companies at the moment. I might change my mind later.
Okay.
But people are getting really excited about a couple of these, or maybe not even excited, but they see the marketing and they go, oh, wow, that must be amazing. And then they see some people chiming in and saying, this is the best paddle I've ever hit. It's the best raw carbon fiber paddle ever. It smokes everything. Nothing is as good as this. And I think a couple things that comes from, because I've seen this several times in my time in pickleball. Pickleball is very grassroots right now. Yeah. And what I mean by that is it's very easy for a company to get into pickleball. If I wanted to launch my own paddle company, I probably only need $5,000 or $10,000 to do it. I could probably do it with less. I think if you want to do it well, $5,000 or $10,000, you could launch a pickleball paddle company. Now, if you are very prominent in your local community and people really like you and they respect you and you launch a paddle, they will buy your paddle. I have seen this all over the nation with people who launch paddle companies, and that's totally a good thing. But so grassroots in that when friends launch paddle companies, you get a lot of supporters. And what I'm seeing with a lot of these new companies online is they're getting those grassroots followers from their state, and those people are going online and telling everyone, this is the best thing I've ever hit. Nothing is even close, and they probably haven't even hit that many paddles. Yeah. I'm talking about this because I've hit over 100 paddles. So not many people have hit the same amount. And so, maybe it is the best paddle they've ever hit, but they haven't hit that many. So keep that in mind. And I guess it just really bugs me because you and I both know we've hit a lot of these.
Yeah.
Most of these raw carbon fiber paddles are the same thing, but where the changes come from are the shape and where the weight is distributed. And some of them are using a better carbon fiber. Some are using cheaper, and maybe there's a little bit of tweaks to the core, right?
Maybe there's some cosmetics and stuff as well.
Yeah,
that's
cosmetics is definitely a little different. But for the most part, we're not talking about any of these raw carbon fiber paddles being technologically way different. The only company, in my opinion, that's done this, and if I'm missing one, you can correct me, is Yola. They were the first one to inject the edge foam, and that made a noticeable impact, a noticeable difference on how the paddle plays compared to everything else, right? The Hyperion, I think the best sweet spot of any raw carbon paddle on the market.
Yeah,
so
I would
props
agree.
to them for doing that.
Yeah, Hyperion.
That was
and
different.
The Solaire.
Everyone else, yeah, and the Solaire, basically just those Yola paddles that have the edge foam essentially.
Yep.
Everyone else, I'm sorry, you're the same thing with very small tweaks. When people say we have this and this technology, or they make something up and make their marketing term, they make polymer sound like it's astronaut technology or something. Give me a break. And that's not to say some don't play better than others. You can have a combination of raw carbon fiber and like a thin core and a poor balance or something, and that could feel bad, and it'll make some of the other ones stand out more and feel better, but they're just not that different. So I just get a little rattled up these days when so many companies are releasing it and everyone thinks that new one is going to be the next greatest thing. I'm sorry to say, but most of these pickleball companies, they get the paddles out of the same factory. A lot of them do. I know several of them straight out of one factory.
Yeah.
So if you think the materials from that factory are going to be drastically different, I think you're wrong.
Okay, good to know. This is where Chris cues his announcement that he is going to be releasing a raw carbon fiber paddle that you can purchase right here exclusively.
And it's the best. We took the best from everyone. There is no one better than us. And it's going to be $800.
Okay, whoa.
And okay, also, this is another thing.
Yeah.
Where it annoys me because I review paddles is, since they're so similar, it's really hard to review these and say anything different. I don't want my reviews to sound like a copy and paste thing, but so many of them, I know several of them where they're borderline identical. The difference is mostly weight and where the balance is, and that does make it play a little different. And for some people, that could be the difference between hating the paddle and loving the paddle. I totally understand that, but just don't act like, carbon is way better than, let me look at my list here, like a Grooven or, or Yola, whatever. It's all similar. It comes down to some personal preference. I just really had to get that rant off my chest because I think raw carbon fiber is amazing, but I think some people are giving these companies way too much credit.
Yeah, no, I saw when I was over, I guess your notifications for your inbox, and I just felt like every single other email was, hey, Chris, we have this new paddle company, this new raw carbon fiber we think you'd really like. We'd like to send you some or whatever. You get inundated with those. And I was like, dang. I was like, they can't be that much different.
No, they can't be that much different. And they all tell me it's way better than everyone else. And I ask them, I say, well, what's different? And I don't get a good answer back.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you guys now, if you're any companies listening, don't try and dupe me with marketing because I will thoroughly test your paddle and I will know if you're lying to me.
Okay.
I am not your average consumer.
You heard it here first, guys. Shoot.
So yeah, I don't think I have too much more to say about that. I don't know if you have any thoughts. I mean, actually, just tell me. You've hit a lot of these raw carbon fiber paddles. Do you think I'm wrong? Like, what do you think?
No, I think for the most part you nailed it on the head. A lot of them feel the same. The only thing that really makes them different is, the shape, the weight, the balance, and really the thickness. And like you said, I think the only people that did something that was a little bit different was Yola when they put that foam around the edge. It just made it more durable, I think, and it really did make a difference on how it feels and it plays. Other than that, I don't know what else they could do. I think this just goes for all paddles. I think they could find better ways and processes if they're still going to use the edge guard, if they don't go edgeless, to adhere the edge guard to the face of the paddle. Because the reason why I think a lot of these paddles suck is because the edge guard comes loose off of the paddle. And part of it is because the glue is attached to, let's say, the paint. Or let's say if it's spray on paint, and then the paint is the thing that actually comes off of the surface, and that's why you get
it loosens.
It loosens the edge guard, and that affects the way that the paddle feels or the way that it plays, and that's what makes it feel kind of crappy or kind of cheap. So I think,
and that's why I think edgeless will be the future.
Yeah, you think edgeless will be the future? So people listening to this right now, like other companies and whatnot, should they be working on edgeless paddles? Is that what they should be doing?
I think so, because the big problem with going edgeless previously was that the edge guard does have benefits. I can't go into all the benefits exactly, but talking to some of the engineers, perimeter weighting makes a difference. Having that edge around the perimeter with weight is a good thing. So the way that companies seem to be getting around this now, or making it better at least, is that edge foam. Injecting that adds that weight into the paddle, and you don't necessarily need the edge guard now. So now that we kind of have that technology, I guess if that's what you want to call it, I think that's going to help solve the issue. The edge guard, I think, still has its benefits. I don't know that at the moment we're going to see it completely go away, but I feel Selkirk is proving, hey, look, we went edgeless and we're not having horrible issues with the paddle. Like 003, I love that thing. And I think you can also solve some of the issue a little bit too by adding lead tape. Maybe it's not as good as the weight being stock or whatever, but
yeah,
I think that helps. And now here's the problem. Once the edge guard is loose, you can glue it back down, but you're losing performance. With no edge guards, you just don't have that issue, period. It's gone.
Yeah, that's true. I also think that even with the edgeless, I think they can do some more where the perimeter of the edge of the paddle is actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it curves upwards a little bit. So it's almost like the inside surface hitting area is almost a little concave. You know, it's like,
okay,
like kind of maybe tapered. You kind of like the Kitchen Pro, right? The Kitchen Pro technically is, I guess, edgeless.
Oh, yeah.
But it kind of grooves in, it dips. And I think that's part of the reason why it felt so good to dink and reset with. So I think there's definitely some stuff that you can still do. And I mean, even if paddles are edgeless in the future, I think if you can find a way to still attach a quote unquote edge guard at different weights, that'd be an easy way to weight up and customize a paddle that is technically edgeless, instead of getting lead tape or whatever at different weights to like tape onto the side of your paddle. If you created an edge guard that somehow sticks to the side of the paddle that adds an extra weight where you can just, pop them off and on, to your choosing, to your liking, I think that could be fairly interesting as well. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I think that can be done to increase the performance, of these paddles.
I've had that same idea for a long time, and I'm surprised the company hasn't done it yet. There should be a way where you can sell the weights if you want. Have people stop buying lead tape or whatever. Have slots or something in your paddle where you can either slot the weight into, or what you said, some way to attach an edge guard. Maybe it snaps on and clicks into the paddle.
Yeah.
That's a custom weight. And then you can say, if you want this paddle to feel more like a power paddle, clip on this weight or clip on this edge guard. Now you get an extra thing to sell. So, okay, you get to make some more money, and people have an easy way to do this. A lot of people are intimidated by lead tape. Where do I place it? How much do I place it? What lead tape do I buy? A company can take away that pain point and solve that. That would be awesome.
Yes.
I'm giving companies free ideas. Okay, you said it first, but we're giving companies free ideas here. We should just go make this.
Yes, I know.
And then
we'll put in the R&D. We'll put in the R&D to make it happen. I think this is also the reason why, like, people's or companies' product lines are so vast. They have such a huge product line because they're trying to create a paddle, all these different shapes, different weights and balances to accommodate all the potential people out there and what they like. Yeah. And I think that's why some of these lines are really hard to discern between different paddles. I think you're probably gonna make a video about it soon where you explain some of the lines, because some of these paddle lines are really hard to figure out.
Oh yeah, I've already shot one and I just need to edit it. Okay. And I won't give anything away yet, but let's just say I was not pleased making this video about this paddle lineup. Okay. And I think it might be the most confusing paddle lineup in the industry right now.
Oh, really?
Potentially. If it's not number one, it's number two.
Really?
For sure.
Is it Yola?
I'm not going to say anything yet. We'll just wait and see.
Okay.
We'll just wait and see. We'll give the viewers something to look forward to. Okay. Well, real quick, because these are paddles have generated some buzz or people want to know about, just kind of want to go through them real quick. Already talked about it a little bit, so I guess we can kind of skip this one. But 16 millimeter Swift, I made a review about it. The short answer is pass.
Garbage.
Unless I got a defect one, which I'm not saying couldn't happen. I actually fully admit that could, but I have had several other people, John Koo included, who had the same findings as me on the Swift. Pickleball Effect also had it. So if it was defects, well, they messed up pretty bad, and that was a lot of defects sent out to the world. So I would say skip that. If you want more info, you can watch my review. Next one that's generating a lot of buzz, and I might just have to review it now because I'm getting asked about it all the time, and I'm seeing it online everywhere.
Can't wait. What is it?
The Pro Drive. Okay,
Oh, the Pro Drive?
Yep, the Pro Drive.
The white one? The all white?
Yep.
The White Warrior.
I want to get, yes, thank you. Thank you for calling it a White Warrior, because that's what it is. And for those of you who don't know, new company popped up called Pro Drive. All of a sudden, it was getting quite a bit of buzz. I don't really know where the buzz came from. Again, I think it's kind of that grassroots stuff. A lot of local players trying the thing out and then just talking about it on social media. But it's a Warrior. It's the exact same shape. They use a lot of the same marketing language, like taper tech handle, paint grit. I can't remember if the exact word is paint grit, but it's whatever. They use the same wording as Diadem. Same handle length, same shape, same weight. It's 8.5 ounces, and it's 3 cores. 2 polymer, and then instead of Nomex, it's Kevlar.
Wait, isn't it Kevlar?
Okay.
Is it Nomex
Yeah,
Kevlar?
it's Kevlar core. Okay, I did some research, and it seems like those... I don't understand all these materials perfectly, but it seemed like a little bit like they're a tiny bit interchangeable. They're not the same thing.
Okay.
They are different, but like... It seemed in my research that these are not drastically different materials, but they are different. I can't remember. One of them is used, it might be Nomex is more used for fireproof stuff.
Okay.
And that didn't apply to Kevlar. I'm not sure. I don't want to misquote information on that one, but yeah, so it's using Kevlar instead of the Warrior using the Nomex. And I got to hit this paddle, and it is literally a Warrior.
It's a more powerful Warrior, I would say.
Hey, I was getting there. there.
Okay, you were. All right.
What I was about to say next is if Diadem made 2 versions of the Warrior, they had a control Warrior and a power Warrior. The original Warrior was the control, and this one's the power version. It does hit harder. I think you get a little bit of extra pop, but the difference is not substantial. You don't go from you're not hitting power air levels of power because of this core. Do you think?
I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't. I feel like I don't swing it as fast. But when I do a full swing with the Pro Drive, like it feels like a tank, like a solid.
Yeah.
Like how do I describe this? If the power air is like the power of like a quick or a fast like jet or something, like taking off or whatever, the Pro Drive feels like the whole entire freaking warship coming at you. That's how it feels like to me.
Okay, so now how would you describe the regular Warrior then?
Okay, the regular Warrior is, maybe like a helicopter. I don't know.
You really think it's that much less?
It's okay. It's not.
Like, do you feel the power is substantially different?
It's not so different, but it's noticeable enough for me to notice.
Yes.
It's enough for me to notice.
I think yeah.
But not that much. And also, I don't know. Maybe it's the one that I played with. The one that you had, I felt like it felt more heftier. Maybe it felt more heavier than the regular Warrior, but I don't know. I could be wrong. But I mean, I would still call it a more powerful Warrior. Not by much, but that's essentially what it is to me.
It is definitely a more powerful Warrior, without a doubt. But I guess what surprised me about it is it's generated a lot of the same buzz I was talking about before, where people are hopping online saying it's the best thing since sliced bread and it's the greatest thing ever. And I don't get it, I guess. If you think that one was so good, have you not hit a Warrior before? Because I feel like if you have hit a Warrior, you would feel that way about that one too. I don't know. It's not that different. I think it's probably made out of the same factory.
Yeah.
Same general makeup, but they just replaced that inner core. And that does make a difference, but I don't know. It's just weird how much buzz it generates. And the Warrior,
I mean, I didn't have
generating that.
I didn't have as much time with it, but I don't know. From initial thoughts when I pulled it out, I just very slightly. I also feel like maybe it's just because it was new, but I feel like it was put together better than a regular Warrior. But if you do some extensive tests on it, you can let me know if the edge guard starts, popping off of it a little bit or anything like that. But I felt like it was put together a little bit better than the Warrior, but that could just be.
Also, just for everyone, I believe I did RPM test it. Okay. I'd have to go back and dig up those numbers, but I believe they were nearly identical to the Warrior. Maybe they were just the tiniest bit better, like 40 or 50 RPM, but that could easily be up to the variance that I expect from the test, or it could even just be that my swing has gotten a tiny bit better over time. So essentially, that's such a small difference that I would say it's the same.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's the Pro Drive. Not bad or anything. I believe their warranty is longer than Diadem, so take that for what it's worth. They might be. It might be better to look into Pro Drive than the Warrior at this point, but just don't expect it to be earth-shattering different. Kevlar, it's not like Pickleball just took a giant leap in technology. That's not how it feels.
Okay, fair enough.
So, next one on the list is the Pro Spin. I haven't hit it super extensively, but I did get to RPM test it. Yeah.
Okay.
Pro Spin, ProKennex Pro Spin Plus. It's the one with the strings. Several things I want to say about this. One, the pictures online, extremely deceiving, in my opinion. The ridges look very thick, or the strings that they're calling them look very thick in the pictures. They are not that noticeable in person. If you run your hand on it and you look at it, you can see it. I don't yet, but I knew someone who had one, and they let me RPM test it and hit it a bit. And it's not that noticeable, the strings. So the pictures felt a little misleading. They look really thick. In that, I RPM tested it. It was a windier day, so if I get another one, I will redo this test. But I was getting about 1460 RPM, so not that amazing, especially when they're claiming that this was going to be essentially the best spinning paddle on the market. John Koo also did the RPM test, and he got 1477, I believe. So that to me just, if two people doing the test got a very similar result, I don't think you hit top tier spin at all. So we'll do more in-depth testing later just to double check and be positive. But yeah, spin on that wasn't amazing. But I did like how it felt. When I was dinking with it, playing a little bit, I had fun with it. I think it would be probably my favorite ProKennex paddle that I've hit to date.
I'm curious to try it out.
Yeah, and also it's $220. That might be pushing it a little bit. But I will give them props for this. Aside from Omric saying he broke one handle, ProKennex seems to have amazing durability. I never hear about someone breaking a ProKennex.
Yeah, nor do I.
Yeah, they seem to just be tanks.
Yeah, they seem. Well, actually, no. I saw someone break one. Actually, it was Kelson Lau. Yeah, at PPA Peachtree, he broke it, and then he
handle or what?
It was the handle.
Okay. So I'd be curious to know. Obviously, no paddle's perfect from breaking, but it does seem like theirs seems to have less issues than other ones I hear about.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, I know a few people who have them, and they do love them, and I don't hear too many durability issues with the ProKennex.
Also, their whole thing with the beads inside that are supposed to reduce shock. I just want to reward companies that are doing things different. That's different. And it seems to be effective for a lot of people. Seems like there were some studies done on it. People debate the effectiveness of it. I can't tell you if it's true or not, but I see enough people say that it solved their issue that I am inclined to believe it at least a little bit. So good on them for being different.
Yeah, I do like shaking the ProKennex around. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's like a little maraca. I was just shaking mine the other day.
I thought it would annoy the crap out of me. But
no, it's subtle. It's nice.
It's subtle. Yeah, no, it's kind of nice. Yeah.
You give it to your baby and they shake it like a little toy.
All right. Moving on. What else next? What else you got?
Okay, I only really have two other ones. I just found this one the other day. Brand new company. Yeah. They're called Proton. And they supposedly make some bats. Might have been softball bats, might have been regular bats. But they said, okay, we're using the same carbon fiber that we use in our bats. And those bats are withstanding 100-mile-an-hour pitches and being used for a long period of time. That's what we use in our pickleball paddle. Okay, I question whether it's true or not or how much more durable it is. And then I was like, okay, could be interesting. Then I see the price. It was $300 or right at $300. And I thought, for a company who no one knows getting into the sport at $300, that's kind of crazy. Your paddle better make me breakfast being a brand new company, unproven, making claims. I don't know. Like, I'm skeptical of that one. That's really all I have to say is I just heard about them and supposedly they're claiming that they're really durable.
Let me know if, they ask you, if that asks you how you like your eggs, scrambled.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning and it says, do you want bacon or sausage? And but so we'll see. I thought it was a really bold move to come in at $300. I understand if you're a little more established and you have a track record, but they don't. So thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that durability must be nice. I don't know. We'll see.
Also, just a small side note, people are doing this all over. I actually think they did it with the Proton. It makes me chuckle so much. I love you guys. Like, all you fans, like, you guys are awesome. I love interacting with you guys. But people tag me when these new paddles come out, and they say, if you're smart, send it to Pickleball Studio and see what he thinks.
That's so good.
So I love that it's gotten to the point where they're like, yeah, okay. If you want this marketing claim proven, send it to this guy, because he'll tell you if you lied or not.
Yep. Send it to Pickleball Studio.
And you know what? The Pro Drive guy, someone said it about that, and he messaged me. He's like, "You want one?" So props to him for sending it over to me. Well, I think it isn't that different. He was like, "Yeah, I'll send you one. Let's see."
Okay.
So thought that was cool. The last one I have is Yonex, because we both got to hit this at MLP, and I get questions about it quite a bit. I guess before I dive into it, what did you think of it?
I thought it was solid, but nothing game shattering. We did talk to the rep. I think his name was Felix, but obviously he's a rep for them. So I got to take what he says with a grain of salt, but they're just saying like the way they adhere it and the way they construct it is a little different or whatever. So it's supposed to be more durable or whatnot, but I don't know. When I played with it, like I said, it was solid, but I don't think, for that price point, what are they charging? 200?
200.
Yeah, 200 for it. I don't know. I think there's some other ones that I probably would potentially go with. And then I do put a lot of, weight to durability in paddles. So, but obviously I don't have it for a long time for me to make that kind of decision one way or another if it is truly more durable in their construction than other ways do. So that's my thoughts on it. Durable, I don't know, but solid for what it was, but I don't know if I'd pay the 200 for it at this point in time.
Well, here's how we'll make it easy. Without actually thinking too hard about this and thinking about every paddle, how many paddles ahead in the line that you would actually use? How long before you get to the Pro Yonex or the Yonex?
The Yonex, I don't know, it'd be a while. Let's be real.
I
can't even tell you the number, but it'd be a while.
Probably 10 plus.
Yeah, for sure. It'd probably be 10 plus. 10 plus.
Yeah. I think very similarly. I could maybe make an argument that list would be 20 plus.
Yeah,
I could probably find 20 paddles. Yeah, I could definitely find 20 paddles.
I think I could probably find 20 paddles too. Probably like 15. Definitely at least 15. 10 easily. 15 for sure. 20 might be pushing it, but yeah.
I just think for $200, it doesn't do enough. Spin looks like it'll be pretty poor. It felt like it was pretty poor while I was hitting it. Doesn't really have any grit on it. We all know grit isn't everything, but in this specific context, its lack of grit seemed to be holding it back. I thought it felt fine playing with it. I didn't think it felt bad, but when you put the $200 price tag on it, that's when I start going, you're competing with a lot of things in this price range that kind of kick your butt. So cool that it's handmade in Japan. I think that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I love Yonex as a brand, honestly. I played with Yonex tennis rackets. I still got them with me. Yonex and Wilson are my rackets of choice. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that one wasn't special enough to really, it just wasn't that special. So if you were considering it, I think there's a lot of other paddles on the market that would be worth considering before that. But yeah, we've really only got one thing left here, or maybe two things. But let's talk about what we want to see in the future. So we've talked about what's happening now, some of our annoyances, some of what we like. Let's just kind of talk about, I guess, what we hope we see in the future. Okay. First one for me, this one was super easy. Stop cheaping out on the handles companies. Stop leaving exposed polymer on your handles. Why are you doing this? It cannot cost that much to put a small plastic thin sheet along that polymer or wood or whatever to cover the polymer. It feels so cheap, and I think the only reason they're not doing it is because there is an extra cost and enough consumers aren't complaining, because there's a lot of people in pickleball who have never played a sport or haven't played a racket sport, and they don't know any better. So I think companies are getting away with it, but I'm tired of it.
Yeah, if you're paying, I think, if you're paying upwards of 150 to like 180 plus for sure, I should not be able to feel like that polymer core. So the biggest,
honestly, I'd say less.
You'd say less, okay?
because the Head Radical Tour was 134, it's now 150. I talked to them. I actually don't know if I can say that or not, so I won't say it. But let's just say it. Okay, they didn't artificially raise it. I'll just say that. It wasn't, oh man, let's just raise the price on this. It wasn't that. I just don't know if I can say what the actual reason was. But anyways, that paddle was 134, rock solid handle. Has no exposed polymer, feels awesome. So if they can do it at 130, everyone 150 plus, you have no excuse.
Right.
Zero excuse.
Let's see. I think the worst offenders to me are, I think I would say Selkirk's Vanguard line.
Yes, it's $200, and I know Selkirk cares. I should just talk to him. Actually, the next time I talk to him, I'll probably ask him.
And I can feel the polymer.
Why? It's $200.
Yep. Hate it. I think Engage as well.
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why I didn't like some of the SLK, like the SLK Halo and stuff. But I gave that a pass just because I know it's more of their budget line. I'm like, okay, if you skimped out here, perfectly fine. Let's see, what are other really bad offenders for really feeling the polymer that you can think of right now?
Grooven does it. I like their paddle, but on the 16H, you can definitely feel the exposed polymer. Let me just look at my wall of paddles really quick. I believe Gamma does it up there.
The Yola Vision line.
Yeah, the Yola Vision line does it. Though, interestingly enough, I think my 16 millimeter, you can't feel the polymer, and the 14 you can. So I need to unwrap those and actually see what's going on there, but I did notice that the other day. And here's an interesting thing. The Electrum 16, I tore down that handle, and they have a little plastic sheet covering the handle, and it feels really solid in the hand. Like I thought, wow, this feels better than how I remember my old one, because it used to have exposed polymer. So that one doesn't have exposed polymer, but the 13 millimeter does. And I thought, why are you doing that? Just put the same plastic sheet over it.
Yes. Some companies are better than others. I think Diadem's pretty good. I really like their handles.
Oh,
obviously.
Carbon's doing it now too, by the way.
Okay.
I just remembered that.
Okay.
People have been complaining about that lately.
Yeah, because it's sharp. Because the Carbon handles are sharp.
Yeah, it's sharp. Doesn't feel good.
No, yeah, it cuts in.
Diadem's been good with their handles.
Yeah, Diadem's been good. I think Gearbox does good with their handles. Obviously, the Hyperion line from Yola, all of Selkirk's higher end paddles, have better.
Yeah, the new ones like the Vanguard or the Power Air and like the Project stuff has been good.
Yes,
but I don't think you should be paying top dollar to get that. I think you deserve that at a cheaper price. And I think until consumers start complaining more about that, it probably won't change. But it's an easy. I don't know production costs.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. I think it's an easy fix for a lot of paddles out there to make them like that much better. So the handles.
Yeah,
for sure. For sure.
Yeah, totally. So I want to start seeing that change. I have another one, but do you have one that you can think of?
Yeah, I think it's just better with the edge guard, either with the adhesive or just going edgeless. I like I said with the Kitchen Pro having the tapered edgeless, where it's like if you imagine the paddle face like being flat, and as you get to the edge guard, or let's imagine this would be edgeless, right? And you look at the paddle face, and as soon as it starts getting to the edge, there's just like a flat drop off. I would actually think I would like to see it raised a little bit and then wrapped around. Like, it almost feels like the edge guard.
It almost feels like an edge guard, but it's all one piece.
But it's one piece, right? It's like built into the face. I think that would be fascinating because that material potentially where the quote unquote edgeless part or that edge guard where it meets with the paddle face, you could potentially make that into a different material. So maybe when the face hits the ball, there's a little bit more give. So it's not just the polymer core absorbing all the shock, but part of that edge guard is also imagine it almost kind of like a mini, like almost like a trampoline effect. Like, because you have the place where you jump in the trampoline and then you have the rim around the trampoline and then it's supported by springs. So it acts in that way. And I think that would be kind of interesting to see what companies could potentially do with that. So that was just an idea right there. So that's one thing.
Yep. And this next one, I'll do two things here because this one kind of goes into my last one, but just stronger handles. I've seen several posts about Electrum Model E handles snapping lately. I even had a local buddy text me and say, hey, my Model E handle snapped. Is that a common issue? And then I saw more posts and I was like, kind of weird that one is like that because the head's not that heavy and the handle's short. So that's where I would think you'd see the issue less. But anyways, happened there, and Electrum has a pretty bad warranty. It's only 3 months. And Yola also recently has been under some heat for their bad handles. My 14 millimeter Swift handle is about ready to break. I actually might break it on video because I'm convinced if I take it and then like if I were to swing and then just stop suddenly, I think it would snap. Or if I did it a couple times, I think it would break. Because when I swing it right now, there's a clicking noise and a little bit of give. So I've heard other people's handles do that, and I know that's when it's ready to break. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Yola's been under a lot of heat. I met a guy.
It actually
the other day.
happened to Jack. At minor league, he was looking for a new.
Really?
Yeah, he was playing with a Solaire, and he was like looking at his things and dude, it's about to snap or whatever. And then Anna came and asked me, he's like, "Hey, Will, do you know anybody who has a Solaire? Do you have a Solaire that he could use?" Because it was his only paddle, and I was like, "Well, Jack, that was your first mistake on bringing one paddle or whatever."
Yeah.
And then I basically told him I don't know anybody with a Solaire, but then I was like, "Oh, look. Go ask Leia Jansen," and she was there. And Anik actually went to go ask Leia Jansen, and Leia Jansen actually let him use one of her Solaires. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely want to see stronger handles because I met a guy the other day, one of our higher level groups. I believe he said he's gone through 4 or 6 Hyperions in about 6 months or less.
It's crazy.
And it's because the handle snaps every time. So that to me is a pretty unacceptable issue, or it's a big issue. I never had it on my 16 millimeter. Surprisingly, I'm surprised it happened on the 14 and not the 16 since there's more weight in the head. But yeah, I want to see these handles reinforced somehow. And then the other thing is, I would like to see companies experiment with newer cores. Now, what's difficult about this is, after spending a lot of time with the gearbox, I understand people are angry about polymer, but polymer really does feel so good to me. It felt like I went from, okay, this is going to sound so drastic.
Yeah.
I even as I'm thinking this,
here we go.
It sounds so drastic. But when I was hitting the gearbox and how the core feels, and then I would go to any other polymer paddle, it felt like breathing like poison air and then breathing completely fresh air.
Okay.
I seriously, the pop and the feel that I felt I got from polymer paddles was substantially more enjoyable to me. So even if polymer paddles have issues, I think people just enjoy them, right? If people didn't enjoy them, why don't we all just use gearboxes? Superior in durability in every single way to polymer, but we don't all use one.
Yeah, I think the only gearbox that kind of feels similar in my is the CX line, the CX14 line. I think they kind of...
14's much closer.
Much closer. I bet you if they made like the CX14 in like a thicker core, like, like
16 or something,
16 millimeter, I bet you, or 20 even, like it would get closer in feel, but who knows? Yeah.
I think so too. So I'd like to see companies experiment with new cores, but I also understand why companies aren't, right?
Yeah.
You look at, if I'm a company and I look at Gearbox and go, okay, this paddle's really polarizing. How much money do I want to invest into R&D for everyone to say, no, we don't like this paddle, we like how polymer feels?
Yeah.
But then you also have people screaming at you saying, your polymer breaks, fix it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know what people want. I don't think the people know what they want sometimes.
I mean, we'll see more once somebody comes out with something. I think as more people come into the game, into the sport, they will, pick up what they want, and I think people will experiment, and we'll see something better is gonna come eventually, like on the horizon.
Yeah, for sure,
real soon.
I bet 5 years from now we look back and go, wow, our paddles were pretty primitive.
I mean, not too long ago, I think everybody was still using like a wooden paddle. Still using wooden paddles.
I said I wouldn't make another joke, so I won't. I was gonna make a joke about the Z5. I won't do it. I'll hold back.
Okay.
I won't do it. I'll be nice. But the last thing I guess I just want to mention, this will be pretty brief, is I will be doing a paddle awards video for the end of the year. Still figuring out the release date of when I'm going to do that video. It'll be before the end of the year, obviously. I'm just trying to wait and see if anyone tries to squeeze in a last-minute paddle that might make it in there. I've pretty much made up my mind on my list what I think they're going to be.
Can I be in the video to like give the honorable mention or like the biggest flop?
Oh, well, biggest flop is one of the things, so I might have to throw you in there.
Yes.
Actually, that would be, it would almost be perfect because you'd probably be way funnier doing the biggest flop than I would.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to have to talk about that because that could be a good idea.
Heck yeah.
So we'll definitely chat about that, but I want to do this for a couple reasons. One, I want to reward and incentivize the companies that did well, and for the other companies to look at it and go, okay, this guy is given, like, they get some nice praise for doing this. And I think if you do a good job and you make good improvements in pickleball, you should be rewarded for it, right? You set the trends for everyone else to follow. I actually wanted to take this a step further to be even more rewarding. I don't know that I'll do it for this year. I'm still debating it. But I wanted to have these really sick, cool looking trophies made and then mail it to the companies.
Oh, heck yeah.
So that they could be like, we won this award. Like, we won the Pickleball Studios Best Paddle Award this year.
Okay. That'd be pretty cool.
I don't know. Still might consider it. I just really want to incentivize these companies. Like,
no, you should totally do it.
Keep doing a good job.
Yeah, you should totally do it. I'll make a paper plate with some markers to give to the biggest flop, and I'll send it to them. For that one.
You almost might have to give them an extra good trophy to be like, no, actually, no, because then maybe that just incentivizes them to go for that big trophy again.
Oh, okay. True.
Going for the biggest flop. So, yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else about paddles you thought we missed?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I also just want to put it there. I mean, we're talking extensively about paddles, but just remember, at the end of the day, the paddle is not everything. That's what I want people to get out of this.
Definitely not. Yeah. It's, we really are talking about paddles heavily, but at the end of the day, find the paddle that works for you and just stick with it. I think, it's always easy to look at the grass is greener over there. That paddle has higher RPM numbers. Maybe this paddle has more
just because Chris hates it doesn't mean that you can't play with it and still spank him on the courts. That's all really what you need to get out of this.
Will?
Yeah.
I said I'd be done. I'm not done. If you use a Z5, you're not beating me.
Oh, is that right? I mean, I technically beat you and Pat with a 0-0-1.
No, wait. What, a 2v1? No, we had to.
No, it was a 2v2. It was a 2v2.
We don't have that on video, so I'm not convinced we lost that.
Oh, okay.
The 0-0-1 is so much better. Even as bad as it is, it's still way better than a Z5.
Oh, really? You think so? I think the Z5
singles with a Z5 would be terrible.
Okay, all right. We'll do another.
Our next rematch, we'll put a Z5.
Okay,
on you.
put a Z5. Actually, you put me like your most hated paddles, like, or the crappiest one. Give me a wooden one too, and we'll see how that goes.
Nah, wood, you'd be fine. I think you'd be powerful with wood. Okay. But if I gave you an Adidas or a Z5, I think the chances are significantly higher.
Okay, I definitely have to play with an Adidas paddle and a Z5 for sure. Put those on.
If I lost that, dude, I'd quit, man. That would be bad. That'd be bad for the brand.
Okay.
But anyways, back to the thing. Yeah, really just find what works for you and stick with it. It's really easy to paddle chase. I still get excited about certain paddles when I see stuff coming out, so I get it. But really, you are better off sticking with it once you find a good one. If you find a raw carbon fiber paddle you like, it's got good performance, just stick with it. If by some miracle you think you're just the best player ever with a Z5 and that's what makes you feel good, go for it. I think you're wrong, but go for it.
Go for it. Heck yeah.
So yeah, dude, this was an awesome episode. We are 2 hours deep. This is officially might be the longest podcast episode. The only other one that might top it is the Shea one. So it's kind of crazy. If you made it this far, we massively appreciate you. Thank you for putting up with us for 2 hours of your time, and we hope you got some valuable information from this.
Yes, indeed. Till the next one.
So, yeah, till the next one. Later, guys.
See ya.